Jax didn't really care about Marco Zhong's attitude, but he was suspicious. It was pure chance he'd ended up in Singapore. But the moment Lily had mentioned Vortex Bay, he'd remembered he had some unfinished business in the shadow of the Vortex Tower. From back in the States, his reach hadn't extended far enough to come here for revenge. But since he was here now, he might as well look up Marco's brother, Leo, and settle an old score. You got it, Jax said, a cold smirk playing on his lips. Now that I'm here, how could I not settle the tab? He leaned forward slightly. But, you mentioned someone pulling the strings? That part, I'm interested in. Let me guess. Was it Caleb or Skylar? Jax threw out the names. The exposure of that incident had led to his first taste of the Pierce family's brutal discipline, his dignity systematically crushed in front of everyone. The origin of it all, the ones involved from the start, had to be one of those two. Marco didn't speak. Seeing Jax again, he honestly wanted to kill him. If it weren't for Jax Pierce, would his brother be in the state he was in now? And now, the man responsible for it all had the gall to show up at his door. Did he think his brother hadn't suffered enough? That his punishment and atonement weren't sufficient? Did he think that because Leo wasn't dead, he could come and finish the job? What a joke. Jax had only been whipped half to death by his family. His brother, on the other hand, had spent years living a fate worse than death. If Jax wanted to push it further, that was just too much. Neither of them. Marco finally ground out. Jax, you want to answer so you can die in peace? He straightened up, his professional gambler's face hardening. Then you'll have to beat me. Marco had been a fixture in this underground world for years, a master of every game of chance. It wasn't an exaggeration to call him a king here. Few dared to challenge him anymore. Instantly, the news that some random tourist from the States was challenging Marco Zhong, the casino's second-in-command, ignited the entire floor. The guy's got a death wish. Another American tourist ready to die. I guarantee he walks in on his own 2 feet. He'll be carried out missing a few limbs. Damn, but the wife he brought with him. She's the real deal. Like a poppy in full bloom. Makes me drool just looking at her. Urk. Spurt. The man spewing vulgarities was still shouting when a dark shadow yanked him back into the smoky, chaotic crowd. A moment later, something sharp plunged into his mouth, expertly slicing his tongue. Nathan wiped his knife, disgusted. The man's neck had already been snapped. "Huh, garbage like you doesn't even get to look at my lady," Nathan muttered, melting back into the crowd. He wasn't the only one. The moment Lily had stepped into this place, the balance of power had completely shifted. The Astor dynasty's influence was an absolute, crushing force anywhere in the world. And more than that, Lily herself. She had once been the most formidable weapon in her organization. She alone was worth an entire special ops division. Outsiders called her venomous, but a snake didn't possess 1/10,000th of her lethality. Lily raised an eyebrow, her gaze sweeping lazily and coldly over the spot where the voice had abruptly vanished. Her eyes showed no flicker of emotion. The hunt, the kill, the destruction, none of it could stir her. Not like a single word from Jax, Lily, which could make her whole world spin. TSK, a tongue that foul isn't even fit for the general's dinner. Toss him in the gator pit at the estate. Nathan waved a dismissive hand, and someone was already dragging the body away. Back at the table, Jax was skeptical of Marco's words. He couldn't believe Caleb wasn't capable of something so depraved. Caleb loved nothing more than causing him trouble, grinding him into the deepest mud, breaking his pride. But besides him and Skylar, who else could it have been? Back then, he had just arrived at the Pierce household, trying with all his might to find a shred of family affection. Who would have wanted to deny him even the slightest chance of fitting in? To find out, it seemed he had a play. Beating you isn't a problem, Jack said, his voice level. And I'm not looking for a dying man's answer, because I'm not the one who's going to die. He just wanted the truth, so he could deliver his vengeance with precision. Full of confidence, Jax stepped forward to a gaming table that the crowd had already cleared. Lily followed him, but even standing behind him, her aura and presence were so immense they couldn't be diminished. Jax, you're very confident, Marco began, and very cruel. To torture his brother like that, and then show up with such a calm, detached expression, intending to see Leo again. What was he planning? What Marco didn't know was that the person he truly needed to fear wasn't Jax. It was the woman standing behind him. She was the true monster. Fine, Marco said grimly. Let's let the cards decide. At the table, Jax's performance was flawless. 3 years ago, he'd been forced by the Pierces to swear he'd never gamble again, but his talent for it was innate. He could even listen to the dice rattling in the cup and call the result just by the sound. It felt as if he'd done this 1,000 times before, though he knew that was impossible. Shaking off the thought, Jax focused on the growing mountain of chips in front of him. He'd started with a $30,000 buy-in and had already won $20,000 from Marco without losing a single hand. The situation stunned not only Marco, but the entire crowd of onlookers. What the hell is with this guy from the States? He hasn't lost a single round. This is insane. Statistically, he should have lost at least a hand or two, right? But he's playing like he was born a gambling god. He has to be cheating. Damn, cheating in Marco's house. He won't walk out with a dime of that money. And more importantly, he won't be walking out with that bombshell wife, either. The peanut gallery never tired of drama, their chatter rising and falling. But at the table, Marco's face was grim. Beads of sweat rolled down his cheeks as he stared at his hand, his expression heavy. By any normal measure, it was a good hand, but he didn't dare make a move. He was bleeding money, his chips stack dwindling. He'd made a name for himself in Singapore, earning a fortune in dirty money as Mr. Tickai's right-hand man, but his expenses were massive, paying off contacts and maintaining his own crew. In less than half an hour, Jax had won nearly half his net worth. Marco knew he couldn't just sit there and lose. Mr. Pierce, Marco said, forcing a smile, just playing with chips isn't very exciting, is it? And it defeats your original purpose. He was forced to bring up Leo. Jax's eyes lifted, his victory assured. What he wanted was simple. He wanted Leo Zhong, if not dead, then crippled. You're right, Jax said with an arrogant drawl. Winning all the time does get a little boring. His humble brag made several gamblers in the room roll their eyes in disgust. The nerve of this guy. Exactly. So, I know what you want. You can have my brother, Leo, but for this round, our stake is a living thing. Since you want a person, you have to put up a person in return, right? Marco's gaze slid to the woman behind Jax. That woman behind you. She's a real prize. Marco had a sharp eye. He'd seen how protective Jax was of her, treating her like the apple of his eye. And she was, without a doubt, top tier. If he could win her and present her to Mr. Tikai, his future would be limitless. He'd have to sacrifice Leo, but without taking a risk, he had no way out. No, the word was flat and absolute. I'll put up my own body parts as collateral. Any part of me you want, Jax declared, his voice hard as steel. But not her. She's my wife, not some piece of property to be traded. Jax would never allow Lily to be labeled like that. To be objectified, to be bartered. Lily glanced at Jax, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. They both knew that with Jax's skill, he was guaranteed to win. So, her being a stake would have been a mere formality. And it wasn't as if she'd never been treated as an object or property in a transaction before. If Jax had agreed, she would have accepted it. But he had refused. He turned and took her cool hand, his fingers lacing firmly with hers. The Jax from his past life hadn't known her history. But this Jax did. He knew what she had been through, and he would never let her fall into that kind of situation again. He met her slightly blank, questioning gaze. There, in front of everyone, Jax pulled her close, his large hand wrapping securely around her slender waist. He lowered his head and pressed a soft, adoring kiss to her brow. Lily, he murmured, his voice full of tenderness and pain. I'm not him. Being with me has already been unfair to you. I will never let the past repeat itself. Even if there was no risk, he would not allow her to feel like an object on a trading block ever again. Lily blinked. The feeling of being touched so deeply was breathtakingly real. She was constantly falling for him, but this moment, she was utterly, hopelessly in love. She relented, offering a compromise. Then you won't use your body parts as collateral, either. She looked past him. Nathan, get over here. Nathan, why is it always Zhong, who was moving through the shadows coordinating their security, froze. What the? Not the lady, not the young master. Nathan, Lily commanded. He instantly appeared, parting the crowd with a stoic expression. My lady, your orders? Lily lifted her chin, her ice-and-fire beauty fully illuminated by the spotlights. The entire room held its breath, captivated by her cold, stunning allure. Go break one of his arms, she said calmly. He decided to give my Jax a hard time. My Jax is willing to play by the rules, but I prefer not to. Now, hand over Leo Zhong. You have 1 minute before it's the other arm. Then his legs, then his eyes, his nose, his tongue. Lily's patience had run out. Marco was dumbfounded. How dare you? Who are you? Why does Jax Pierce call you my lady? In the States, there were only 2 women who truly deserved that title. In an instant, the relaxed atmosphere of the casino vanished, replaced by a tense, blade-sharp silence. TSK. A slow, chilling smile spread across Lily's face. Me? Oh, I'm just the wife of an ordinary tourist named Jax Pierce. Ordinary? Was she serious? Marco stared at Jax and Lily. He had no idea who this woman was, but her presence alone was enough to dominate the entire room. Her beauty made every man here crave her, yet fear to approach. And now, with a single, simple sentence, a man had actually materialized from the crowd. The man was tall, with unremarkable features that would blend into any crowd, but the aura he projected was chillingly familiar. Marco had spent his life in the criminal underworld, seen enough bloodshed to recognize the deadly stillness of a killer. This man was a professional, and he was hiding the true extent of his lethality. And the woman, her expression was calm, but her killing intent was just as potent as the man she called Nathan. "You're not worthy of knowing who I am," Lily said, her gaze imperious and cold. This was her natural habitat. On missions for her old organization, she had infiltrated countless black sites and even government agencies, killing without a trace, dancing with death every time. If not for the thought of Jax keeping her tethered to this world, she wasn't sure why she would have even bothered to stay alive. Jax was her reason for living. She didn't fear death, but she feared that if she was gone, someone else might take him. Her possessiveness had transformed into a will to survive, to climb, to kill. Anyone who stood in her way had to go to hell. Right now, Lily wouldn't give anyone an inch. Whatever Jax wanted in this place, she would deliver it to him with a wave of her hand. The wave of murderous intent that poured from her made Marco feel the cold grip of his own mortality. He took a half step back, his expression frozen. He'd faintly heard Jax call her Lily, asked her. In the States, what other woman with that name dared to call herself my lady? No, it couldn't be. A figure of that magnitude would never grace a small-time operation like his. Marco felt his world collapsing. He scrambled to plead. Wait, I can hand over my brother, but there's no need for you to take revenge on him, Mr. Pierce. He suffered enough for what he did. Marco was a smart man. To thrive in a place like this, you had to know how to read people, and right now, every instinct screamed danger. Jax frowned, his suspicion growing. He had been powerless back then, left half dead after his punishment. He only later learned that Leo had followed his brother overseas. At the time, still naively believing his family might one day show him affection, he'd been too weak to seek revenge or force the truth out of him. More importantly, even if he'd found out the truth and pointed the finger at Caleb or Skylar, no one would have believed him. They would have just seen it as another one of his incorrigible acts, another attempt to shift blame for his own gambling scandal onto his family. As long as the Pierces refused to believe him, his words were meaningless. The Jax of the past had never understood that. Is that so? Jax's voice was devoid of emotion. Words are cheap. Bring him out and let me see for myself. And what about that answer you promised me? I'm still waiting. His eyes were cold. Any lingering feeling he had for that family was gone. They were strangers. Even with shared blood, the bond of family was severed. Then, please, follow me, Marco said, his eyes darting around the room. The onlookers took the hint and dispersed, returning to their games. As tempting as Lily was, they wouldn't dare poach Marco's prey. Jax nodded without a second thought. He wasn't worried about danger. The most dangerous thing in this entire casino was holding his hand. Lily played along, letting Jax lead her as they followed Marco into a long, dark corridor. The pitch-black environment made a familiar, layered coldness rise in her eyes, but the warmth of Jax's hand holding hers soothed the darkness slightly. This Marco person, she thought, has ruined the ordinary life I planned to have with Jax. He disrupted our little world. He should probably be torn to pieces for that. Though the corridor wasn't long, Marco was drenched in a cold sweat by the time they reached the end. Here, he said, his voice trembling. Mr. Pierce and Lady Astor, my brother is in a miserable state. He can't even stand. He's trapped in this jar, and he has to relieve himself through a tube. When Jax saw Leo Zhong again, he was genuinely shocked. The man barely looked human, his skin stretched taut over a skeletal frame. The arrogant, pot-bellied man he remembered was gone. His eyes had been gouged out. His limbs were missing. He was confined to a small, ceramic jar. This was the infamous human swine punishment from ancient Chinese history. A chill ran down Jax's spine. His gaze instinctively shot to the woman behind him, the woman who, upon meeting his eyes, blinked innocently as if she hadn't a care in the world. Can't he get out of the jar? Jax asked, his voice tight. How long has he been like this? After a second of revulsion, a grim satisfaction washed over him. He didn't care if Lily had done this or not. The outcome was more satisfying than anything he could have engineered himself. He had suffered so much back then. Why should Leo have gotten off scot-free? It seemed punishment wasn't always denied, just delayed. Sometimes, someone else delivered it for you in the shadows. I tried to get him out, Marco stammered, but some of his flesh has fused with the jar. We can't break it without killing him. And more importantly, he doesn't want to come out. All I can do is keep him alive with tubes. Every day is torture for him, but he's too afraid to die. He told me. He's afraid to die because of me. Marco's voice cracked. Mr. Pierce, since you're here in person, can you please give my brother a quick end? Lady Astor, I'm begging you, please have mercy. With that, Marco dropped to his knees. He had no other choice. The moment Jax and Lily had appeared, his brother, who had been barely clinging to life, had started trembling uncontrollably. The closer Lily got, the more terrified he became, breaking out in a cold sweat. Marco understood instantly. Against Jax, he might have had a fighting chance. But the moment he realized the stunning beauty was the venomous monster from the Astor family, all thoughts of lust vanished. She was a flower of death, blooming in a miasma of poison. The more beautiful she appeared, the stronger her venom. Marco, what are you doing? Jax said, his tone deceptively casual. What does this have to do with my wife and me? Don't try to drag us into this. If Leo is already this miserable, you'd be so sad if he died. Why would you ask us to give him a quick end? We're just strangers here. It's not our decision to make. Watching Leo's fate, Jax had a strong suspicion of what had happened. But then he looked down at Lily's innocent face, and his heart melted. He gently stroked her soft, dark red hair. Don't talk nonsense, Marco, Jax said, his voice softening. My Lily is gentle and kind. She wouldn't even step on an ant on the sidewalk. Seeing your brother like this has her so scared she's hiding behind me. Probably gonna have nightmares. How could you possibly ask such a thing of her? Stroking her hair, Jax found that even his wife's most brutal side seemed cute. He wasn't horrified at all. In fact, he was more smitten than ever. Didn't evil people deserve the most extreme punishment? His only regret was that he hadn't been the one to do it himself. Marco was speechless. Gentle and kind? Who are you talking about? Who? Mr. Pierce, my brother's like this because he offended you. Marco pleaded, not giving up. He already felt like a man in hell. But with these two in front of him, the flames felt closer than ever. These two were the real devils. His brother was too afraid to die, and being forced to suffer this living death was that woman's most sadistic punishment. Using him as leverage, using human nature as bait, it was the most vicious evil imaginable. This woman, she was a demon walking the earth. Mr. Zhong, Lily's voice, sweet as poison, drifted over. You seem to have taken a liking to that jar, don't you? Marco fell silent. He got the message. Just as a fragile calm settled over the Vortex Casino, a slender figure draped over a pot-bellied man entered the floor. Everyone who recognized Mr. Tikai quickly cleared a path. Tikai, honey, is this the casino you manage? It's so grand. It feels so powerful being with you. Chloe Vance, dressed in a revealing outfit, cooed. Her figure was undeniably good, and since arriving in Singapore, she had quickly latched onto Mr. Tikai. Life was comfortable, and she was quickly nourished back to her peak beauty. But Chloe knew that no matter how good she had here, she was still just a prostitute. Only by returning to the States and getting Jax back could she reclaim the life of adoration she once had. After experiencing some hardship abroad, she finally realized how precious Jax's coddling and protection had been. Other men only wanted something from her. But Jax was different. He had truly loved her. She had just been too naive back then, taking his love for granted and treating him like a pathetic dog. Now, Chloe genuinely regretted it. She was certain that if she went back, without Aunt Lily in the way, Jax would choose her again. Right now, he was just submitting to Lily's oppressive power. But she kept these thoughts to herself. Julia, my dear, I've treated you well, haven't I? Tikai said with a greasy smile. Whatever you want to play, I'll have someone play with you. Here's 10,000 in chips. Play whatever you want. If you lose, it's on me. Tikai wasn't a fool. He was just playing with a woman. There was no need to give her too much. Money was for showing off to women in the red light districts, not for them to spend. If he was going to spend it, it would be on a clean woman like Julia. By his standards, the way he doted on Julia already far exceeded any of his previous women. Chloe's expression flickered. She remembered how stingy Caleb Pierce had been with her back in the States. Looking at this man, her stomach turned. But she forced it down. Wow, $10,000. You're so generous to me, Tikai. She purred, a master of bending to the situation. Just then, one of Tikai's men leaned in and whispered in his ear. Tikai's face immediately darkened. What? Some worm from the States dares to throw his weight around in my place? And Marco actually treats him with respect? Has he forgotten who the boss is here? Tikai's face grew grim, and the atmosphere chilled. Boss, Marco took those two Americans to the tea room, but they're on their way back now, the underling reported, eager to make a good impression and hopefully snag the #2 spot. He had no qualms about selling Marco out. What should we do? The nerve of Marco. Tikai spat. Fine. If they're coming back, let's give them a little surprise. Men, surround the area. Julia, don't be afraid. I'm here. I'll take care of this trash, and then we'll have some fun. Tikai's yellowed, smoker's teeth almost made Chloe gag, but she could only endure it, pressing herself against his chest like a delicate bird. Her eyes, however, scanned the room for prey. She desperately needed a stepping stone back to the States. Preferably an American. She knew that only a fellow countryman, seeing her stranded abroad, would feel a pang of sympathy and want to help. Especially one as beautiful as her. Men were always susceptible. You're amazing, Mr. Tikai. How could that little worm from the States ever compete with a local powerhouse like you? The underling flattered. I heard his name is something like Jax. Pierce. Sounds like an overconfident loser. The underling had witnessed the whole thing and, knowing a little English, had caught Jax's name to use for brownie points. The moment he said the name, Chloe's heart leaped. So Jax never gave up on me? He crossed an ocean to find me, to save me. Tears welled in Chloe's eyes. She wouldn't have to live in fear anymore. But what if it was just someone with the same name? Suppressing her excitement, her hands trembling, she finally saw the man she had been dreaming of emerge from the corridor. Jax was tall and imposing, making the short, squat men around him look pathetic by comparison. He was devastatingly handsome. Chloe couldn't hold back any longer. She broke free from Tikai's grasp and ran towards him. Jax, be careful, she cried, throwing herself at him. The men Tikai had positioned hesitated, not daring to accidentally hurt their boss's new favorite. But Chloe's action sent Tikai's rage meter through the roof. Jax, you finally came for me, she sobbed. Jax, I knew you would never abandon me. You still love me the most. Chloe threw herself at the figure emerging from the hall. Feeling the warmth and heartbeat of the person she was clinging to, she closed her eyes, ready to collapse into Jax's arms in a flood of grateful tears. She was so overcome, she didn't even notice the man she was holding was barely taller than her. She murmured her grievances, a hand coming to rest on her waist. Chloe slowly opened her eyes, ready to lift her tear-streaked face and pour out her heart. But one look was all it took. She screamed and stumbled backward, falling to the floor. The man she had desperately thrown herself at wasn't Jax at all. It was Marco Jean. As Mr. Tikai's new plaything, she'd met Marco before. He was also from the States and had secretly made a few passes at her. But a low-level thug like him was beneath her notice, and she'd always looked at him with disdain. To think she had just thrown herself into the arms of such garbage. Furious, Chloe sat on the floor, her eyes searching tearfully for Jax. There he was. It really was him, the man she'd fantasized would come and rescue her. The man who had once worshipped her. But now he was leaning against a pillar, watching her with a look of playful, mocking amusement. He seemed surprised to see her, but the mockery outweighed everything else. What was even more shocking was that the most feared woman in their family circle, Aunt Lily, was staring at her with cold, dark eyes. Under that gaze, which felt like the stare of a predatory snake, Chloe felt her blood turn to ice. Lily, what was Aunt Lily doing here? Julia, what are you doing? Tikai roared, finally piecing things together. What's your relationship with that worm from the States? Are you cheating on me? This was a classic case of his woman being stolen by another man. And it was obvious Julia and that loser Jax knew each other from back home. This was a blatant slap in the face. His own woman could do no wrong. It had to be that loser's fault. Julia, why are you so eager to throw yourself at him? Can't, mister. Tikai satisfy you. Marco chimed in, now thoroughly terrified of the demonic couple. He had been so close to sending the two devils on their way, so close to surviving the night. The last thing he wanted was for all his groveling to be for nothing. But Mr. Tikai clearly didn't see it that way, and neither did Chloe. 15 minutes earlier, Marco's legs had been trembling. The moment he realized the beautiful woman was the infamous Lily Astor, his spine had turned to jelly. He fell to his knees, begging and pleading as he laid out the truth of what happened years ago. Mr. Pierce, my brother was a fool back then, a complete fool. He was acting on Mr. Pierce's orders, your grandfather's, when he dared to go to the Pierce estate and cause a scene about your gambling. That was why he denied it was Caleb or Skylar. There weren't even players in this game. The mastermind was the one who never seemed to be involved, the one who was always above it all, the kind, benevolent patriarch who had treated Jax the best when he first returned to the family, Theodore Pierce. Jax stood frozen. He thought his heart was strong enough, that he'd already been through life and death. He'd already begun to see through his grandfather's facade of kindness. But he had never, ever imagined that his grandfather had been using him, destroying him from so early on, that he had never seen him as a real grandson. But he had been so young then, offering his sincere, open heart to the family that shared his blood. In that instant, Jax's world churned. No matter how strong he had become, the truth sent a sharp pang through him. So, he had never been accepted by anyone in the Pierce family. He was, and always had been, an orphan. His real family was the Jiangs, the people who had truly treated him as their own. Lily sensed the shift in his emotions. She reached out, her fingers slowly intertwining with his. "Jax, you still have me," she said softly. "Whatever you've lost, I can give it all back to you." Lily's gentle side was reserved only for him. That warm tone, that beautiful smile, it was all for Jax. Marco, watching from his side, didn't dare look up. The venomous Lily asked her being gentle. He wouldn't risk a glance. Terrified his eyes would be gouged out next. "Lily, I'm fine," Jax said, his voice raw. "That man, he doesn't deserve my respect. The old fox has finally shown his tail." He just hadn't expected the old man to have no feelings for him from the very beginning. But if he was so unwilling to accept him, why bring him back to the Pierce family at all? It was a contradiction. In his past life, every time he was in trouble, he'd harbored a small hope that his grandfather would step in and stand up for him, believe in him. He just needed one family member he could trust. Now it seemed that tiny wish had always been an empty dream. "So, there's not a single person in the Pierce family worth sparing, is there?" Jax's voice was hoarse and cold, a chilling smirk playing on his lips. Marco looked at the couple and realized his initial assessment had been wrong. He'd thought Jax was just an accessory to the beautiful monster. Now he saw the truth. This couple was the perfect embodiment of the saying, "two peas in a pod." A match made in hell. "That's right," Lily purred. "You were always too kind, Jax, which is why they could deceive you so relentlessly. From now on, I'll teach you how to punish those who misbehave, shall I?" Her red lips curved into a dangerously alluring smile, her dark eyes a bottomless abyss hiding countless ghosts. "Okay," Jax finally said, captivated by her charm. He loved this side of her, this gentle demeanor laced with a sick, ecstatic madness. And he was getting used to it. He was starting to like this feeling of losing control, of going off the rails. It was like ever since he'd embraced the madness, his mental state had never been better. Present. Now, with the all-too-familiar Chloe Vance right in front of him, Jax's heart was as still as a dead lake. He saw Marco subtly trying to warn Chloe not to mess with him, but he knew her too well. After years of being her lapdog, he understood her perfectly. She was desperate and alone. She would do anything to find a new support system, and that support had to be the most powerful, most easily seduced man in the room. And sure enough, Chloe hadn't given up on him. She was still lost in the daydream that he would worship her as his goddess the moment she appeared. Aunt Lily, Chloe pleaded, realizing she was cornered and had to go for broke. "Jax loves me. Even if he's with you for power and money, it won't last. I'm begging you, stop coercing my man. Give back to me. We're the ones who belong together. He's my boyfriend." Jax admitted it himself. "I'm his girlfriend." By throwing their taboo relationship out in the open, she hoped to put them on the defensive to buy herself time. She was banking on the fact that Lily, as an elder, wouldn't want the scandal of stealing her niece's boyfriend to become public. But to Chloe's astonishment, Jax released Lily's hand and strode towards her. A triumphant smile flashed across Chloe's face. She stayed on the floor, putting on a pitiful act, waiting for him to lift her into his arms. Thwack! Jax didn't lift her. He kicked her square in the face. There was no mercy, no shred of pity. "You bitch," he snarled. "You're not worthy of even speaking my wife's name." Nathan, watching from the shadows. Oh, damn. The young master has finally stood up. Back in New York. With Jax temporarily out of the country, the affairs of JX Innovations were largely being handled by Sam Cole and Jax's faculty advisor, Professor Miller. Fortunately, the business was stable, and with no major expansions planned, they could manage for a short time. There was just one problem. Sam had been losing sleep. His recruitment drive at Kingston University had been damaged by a scandal of his own making. And Kira, seeming to realize that smearing his name was effective, was doubling down to force him into submission. On the Kingston campus, Kira was, after all, the belle of the foreign languages department. She was beautiful, and her usual demeanor was gentle and refined, making her the goddess of many a campus nerd. Unfortunately, this goddess already had a man. Now, suddenly, the goddess was pregnant, and the father was allegedly shirking his responsibility. Everyone knew Sam Cole was now riding Jax Pierce's coattails to success. He was being painted as a heartless jerk who had abandoned his girlfriend and child the moment he made it big. The campus-wide condemnation of Sam was growing louder. Professors were even using him as a cautionary tale, warning female students to protect themselves and avoid scumbags like him. That day, the university administration officially summoned Sam to campus. He knew it was time to end this. He was living in a villa near Moonshadow Estate, a perk from Jax and Lily. He drove a sports car to campus, something he couldn't have even dreamed of a month ago. He couldn't let his personal problems tarnish the company that had given him so much. Sam coolly put on his sunglasses, cranked up the music, and drove his luxury car onto campus, parking in front of the main academic building. The campus was plastered with flyers and banners accusing Sam Cole, manager at JX Innovations, of abandoning his pregnant girlfriend after striking it rich. The head of the disciplinary committee, Dean Evans, had a massive headache. Somehow, this mess had circled back to involve Jax Pierce. Although Sam was just a department manager, he represented a student Dean Evans held in high regard. Now, this scandal was just creating more enemies for Jax. Dean Evans had no choice. Kingston was a prestigious university. He couldn't just sweep this under the rug. He'd practically had to threaten Sam with expulsion to get him to show up. Heiress stood in the crowd, dabbing at her eyes, acting as if her reputation no longer mattered. If Sam were still the poor loser he used to be, she would never have sacrificed her good name for him. But now, he was a department manager at JX Innovations, a position most Kingston graduates wouldn't reach in 10 years. Everyone knew JX Innovations was backed by the Astor dynasty and was making a killing. They had been the first to pivot their stable of influencers from simple ad revenue to live stream shopping. And in just 2 weeks, many of them had earned commissions in the millions. As a foreign languages major, she hadn't understood any of this before. But Sam was a business major, and she had seen the potential. With Sam's close relationship to Jax, the founder, he was set for life. She had to secure a future for her baby, and for herself, by tying down this future tycoon. "Dean Evans, you have to help me," she cried, holding up a sonogram. "Everyone knows Sam Cole is my boyfriend, but now that he knows I'm pregnant, he's avoiding me. Sam, how could you be so cruel? This is your child. How could you abandon your long-term girlfriend just because you've made it big?" She took a dramatic, shuddering breath. I get it. You're a big shot now. It was an accident I saw you with Isabel Croft." "Oh, Sam, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything about you and her. I can keep a secret. Stop. Just please don't leave me." Kira's ugly side was on full display. The image of the cool, intelligent goddess she'd cultivated for Sam completely shattered. She had tried being pure, but after coming to a city like New York, she realized that purity got you nothing. Only by selling herself could she get more. And Sam, a poor boy from small town just like her, had become an anchor she was desperate to cut loose. But now he was her ticket. Her words sent a shockwave through the crowd. Oh my God, did she just drop a bomb? Isabel Croft. She can't mean the Isabel Croft, can she? No way, if that's true, doesn't that make Isabel Croft the other woman? I refuse to believe a goddess like her would be interested in a scumbag who knocks up his girlfriend and leaves her. Wow, if what Kira is saying is true, this is going to blow up on Twitter. Sam never imagined Kira would stoop so low. It was one thing to drag him through the mud, but to involve Isabel Croft, who had nothing to do with this. Isabel was a superstar. Regal, stunning, the most dazzling woman under the spotlight. A woman he wouldn't even dare to dream of touching. And now Kira was dragging her through the filth. Sam finally snapped. "Kira, say one more word and see what happens. You cheated on me. You may be a laughingstock, and I can let that go. But you will not insult Isabel Croft. Neither of us is worthy of dragging her down from her pedestal." As they argued, a fiery red Ferrari roared into the crowd, its horn blaring with arrogant impunity. The crowd was blinded by the flash of luxury as a voluptuous, stunning figure in a flame-red dress emerged. Her blood-red high heels were sharp and commanding. In that moment, Sam's heart leaped into his throat, pounding so hard he thought it would burst. Thump, 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 thump. His scalp tingled. The woman, a radiant crimson peony, walked fearlessly toward him through the stunned crowd. In that instant, every cheesy romance movie he'd ever seen felt pathetic. Was she here for him? Forgetting her reputation? Forgetting her own innocence in this? Oh my God. I think I'm going to lose my mind. Isabel Croft was here. The goddess had stepped out of his dreams and into the messy chaos of his life. "Don't talk nonsense," she said, her voice carrying over the stunned silence, directed at Kira, but her eyes on Sam. Little Sam hasn't even accepted my pursuit of him yet. The crowd. When Isabel Croft stepped out her car, she was completely at ease, accustomed to being the center of attention. She walked toward Sam with her long legs, a vibrant, dazzling peony in full bloom. Her red dress swayed. Her skin was flawless, and her cool eyes held a soft warmth that miraculously complemented her fiery attire. The high heels stopped in front of him. Not just Sam, but the entire crowd seemed to hold its breath. She was stunningly beautiful and impossibly gentle. The moment he saw her, Sam's first instinct was to whip off his jacket and shield her from the prying eyes of the crowd. More than that, he didn't want a star of her caliber to be dragged into his messy life. He had long repressed his feelings for Kira. After Jax had given him the flash drive, he'd agonized for days over whether to expose her lies. Kira was right about one thing. He was sentimental, a man who would rather suffer in silence than tear down a beautiful memory. But his repeated tolerance had only encouraged her to become more outrageous. He had finally decided to come here today to set the record straight. Kira, however, saw his arrival as a sign of weakness. In her mind, he was caving, ready to play the part of the responsible father, so his child wouldn't be born without one. A triumphant smile played on her lips. But when she saw Isabel Croft actually appear, she panicked. No, that's impossible. She had only mentioned Isabel to add weight to her accusations. It was a wild shot in the dark. She never thought for a second that Sam, who had just left her, could land such a prize. Sam was a nobody, the same broke kid who, when she'd asked for a Louis Vuitton bag that cost a few $1,000s, would hem and haw and look pained. How could Isabel possibly be interested in him? This had to be Jax's doing. He must have used his connection to Lily Astor to hire a big-name celebrity just to humiliate her. The scene descended into chaos. The students who had been condemning Sam a moment ago were now screaming with excitement over Isabel Croft's surprise appearance. Oh, it's Isabel Croft. In the flesh. A real, live celebrity. What did she just say? I was so mesmerized by her beauty, I didn't even hear. What do we do to deserve this? Isabel Croft at our school. And she looks even more breathtaking in this red dress than she does in her usual elegant outfits. And her skin. She looks like a woman in love. Holy crap. Are you all deaf? This is huge. Isabel Croft just publicly admitted she's pursuing Sam Cole? Am I crazy? Is she crazy? Or is the whole world crazy? Does this mean she's fallen for a deadbeat dad, and he hasn't even said yes yet? My world is collapsing. My idol. It's over. Sam, you scumbag, give me back my pure Isabel. As the situation spiraled, Sam finally came to his senses. He rushed forward, taking off his jacket to drape it over her. He could deny their private, ambiguous relationship. He could protect her reputation. But now, with things getting out of control, he couldn't stay silent. He had to face her intentions head-on. She seemed serious. She was interested in him, but why? He was a nobody, an ordinary young man who couldn't compare to her in any way. Isabel, don't be foolish, he pleaded. Here, I'll take you to your car. You need to leave. I'll find a way to explain all this to the public. You and I, we have nothing to do with each other. We're from two different worlds. Please, don't throw away your career for me. Okay. Sam's voice was frantic, laced with a tenderness he didn't even realize was there. He hadn't noticed that his heart had already started to lean toward her. He was used to being her silent, adoring fan, and his first instinct was always to protect her. Isabel listened to his pleading tone, deeply moved. She didn't retreat. As he draped the jacket over her, she took a step forward, her slender, soft body leaning into his chest. Little Sam, she murmured, are you worried about me? Sam felt his brain short-circuit. Did she not hear a single word I said? All she focused on was whether I was worried about her. Is now really the time for that? Seeing her chance, Kira interjected, her voice dripping with righteous indignation. Sam, how can you do this to me and our baby? You're openly flirting with a movie star. Is this your excuse for abandoning us? After all these years, Sam, I see I was wrong about you. She hardened her voice. If you really want to get rid of me and the baby, fine. I'll let you two adulterers be together. But I want $3 million in damages. Kira knew Sam must have profited handsomely from his association with Jax. $3 million was a sum he could probably raise by selling the house Jax had given him. She didn't think she was being unreasonable. Kira, I will not let you talk about Isabel like that. Sam roared, his face contorted with disgust. And you're a greedy parasite. $3 million for your bastard child? You've got some nerve. He couldn't believe this was the same person. The once simple, kind Kira was gone, replaced by this avaricious monster. $3 million for my future and the life of child. I don't think that's greedy at all, Sam. Kira shot back. And you're still defending this home wrecker. Are you still going to deny you cheated? Isabel, even if Sam can't pay this breakup fee, if you want him, you should be willing to pay something, right? $3 million is pocket change for you. Why don't you pay me? Seeing the tide turning in her favor, Kira pressed her advantage. Her reputation was already ruined. How much worse could it get? As long as she got the money, as long as she had leverage over this future hotshot, what did a little ugliness matter? Kira, you're truly disgusting, Sam said, his voice cold. He pushed Isabel behind him and finally met Kira's gaze, his eyes hard and clinical. He was looking at her, but he was seeing the years of misplaced trust he had wasted on a lie. He felt his world shattering. And in that moment, he finally understood how Jax must have felt, that same soul-crushing mixture of heartbreak and disgust. Sam, how can you speak to your girlfriend that way? She's pregnant with your child. Dean Evans began, unable to watch any longer. But Sam cut him off. Dean Evans, the child is not mine. His voice was firm. I have video evidence. I have a timeline. And more importantly, I'm about to publicly prove that the bastard in Kira's stomach is not only not mine, but the product of her fooling around with at least 2 other men. This green hat? Someone else can wear it. Since everyone here is so full of sympathy, I invite any one of you to be the hero and step up. Sam was a kind person, and he respected women. Even knowing the disgusting truth, he hadn't wanted to publicize it and ruin Kira's future. But that didn't give her the right to use his kindness as a weapon. Kindness is not a weakness to be exploited. Kira froze, her hand on her stomach. The moment Sam mentioned video evidence, she panicked. Sam, you're lying. You're just trying to destroy me. Sam let out a cold laugh, his eyes now completely devoid of emotion. Kira, I didn't have to expose the truth. You brought this on yourself. Now, you'll have to live with it. Sam Cole, was done being her doormat. Back in the Vortex Underground in Singapore, Jax's kick sent Chloe Vance sprawling. The face she had painstakingly restored with cosmetic procedures couldn't withstand the impact and was knocked askew. HH, she shrieked. Jax, you cruel bastard. How could you do this to me? I know you had to be with my aunt because you couldn't have me, but things are different now. If you just take me with you, I'll be yours. Why had he changed so completely? Was he still afraid of Aunt Lily? It made sense. No one in the States wasn't afraid of her. The only reason Chloe had ever dared to compete with Lily was because Jax had been willing to die to keep Lily in check. As long as Lily hadn't reached her 25th birthday, the rumored date of her demise, no one in the Astor clan would openly defy her. And that included Jax, who was nothing more than a pretty face she kept around. Chloe understood, but she couldn't give up this chance. Enduring the pain, she turned her sights on Lily. Aunt Lily, if you take me back to the States, I swear I'll never appear in front of Jax again. You know how devoted he is to me. If I die here, even if he's too scared of you to come looking for me, he'll carry the guilt for the rest of his life. His heart will always be full of me. A white moonlight is one thing, Aunt Lily, but a dead white moonlight is impossible to forget. If that happens, you'll never truly have his heart. Chloe's powers of manipulation were top tier. If Jax hadn't been reborn, if he hadn't repeatedly proven his loyalty to Lily, her words might have worked. Lily would have rescued Chloe, because she would never allow the ghost of a dead white moonlight to become her rival. But this time Lily didn't move. Her gaze, cool and placid, swept over Chloe's face. You're right, she said, a slow, dangerous smile gracing her lips. Since you want to go back to the States, I can take you. Jax frowned. He felt something in Lily's aura shift and crack. Her red lips were curved like a hook pulling his soul to hell. In that moment, even Chloe sensed the killing intent. Yes, Lily could take her back. But whether back meant to the U.S. or to the underworld was another question. Chloe cursed herself for ever thinking she could bargain with a monster like Lily Astor. Just then, Tikai finally understood what was happening. Julia was his woman, so why was she caught up in this mess? He couldn't understand most of what they were saying, but he knew his woman had been hit by some worm from the States. This was a direct challenge to his authority. Julia, are you okay? He snarled. Men, tie that man up. And the woman. She's got some looks. We can keep her from me, too. Hit him. A lecher like Tikai could never resist a top-tier beauty like Lily, and he could tell she was Jax's wife. The thought of stealing another man's wife made his blood boil with excitement. For you to what? Lily's eyes snapped up. Her face was wreathed in a smile, her eyes curved into beautiful crescents, but the effect was utterly terrifying. Marco wanted to crawl away and light an incense stick for his boss's impending doom. Chloe fell silent, not even daring to whimper. Mister, Tik-Hai was a dead man. For me to do whatever I want with, of course. Tik-Hai gloated, oblivious. The U.S. really knows how to raise them. What a waste on that pretty boy. Come to Big Brother. A man with my physique is what gives a woman a real sense of security. As Tik-Hai continued to sign his own death warrant, Jax had heard enough. Without a word, he cleanly drew the great equalizer and aimed it at Tik-Hai's crotch. It happened in a flash, the draw, the cocking of the gun, the shot. It was a single fluid motion. Bang! A piercing scream ripped through the casino. Jax stood his ground, watching Tik-Hai collapse, clutching his groin. Then he coolly scanned the room. Every man his gaze passed over instinctively covered his own crotch, their expressions priceless. When you play with guns, you hit them where it hurts. Ag! My junk! All the men in the room shrank, their eyes darting away from Lily. The Vortex group had messed with the wrong people. Men, kill him! Tik-Hai shrieked. The crowd, which had been stirring restlessly, finally moved. Men drew their own weapons, aiming for Jax. But Jax just calmly pulled a hand grenade from his pocket. The great equalizer's attack power increased by 100. The thugs with guns froze. You've got to be kidding me. Is this how we're playing now? They all awkwardly wiped their guns on their shirts and shoved them back into their waistbands. Ahem. This gun is slippery today. My wife just texted. The gas is leaking. I gotta go. Tik-Hai was about to explode. Nobody move. Don't you think for a second that fake grenade is going to scare us? He's from the States. He can't have a weapon like that. Shoot him. Fill him with holes. Jax casually tossed the grenade from hand to hand. Oh, you don't believe me? The next second, he nonchalantly pulled the pin. The entire room? Are all tourists from the States this psycho now? Chloe was terrified, crawling on the floor, looking for cover. She was also from the U.S., and she knew firsthand how insane Jax could be. Others might not do it, but Jax absolutely would. And he'd be the one to do it with the most style. After all, he was the new monster, personally trained by Aunt Lily. Oh God, no. Holy crap. I'm from the U.S. too, bro. Don't hit a friendly. Son of... I knew this kid was here to cause trouble, but I didn't think he was here to blow the whole place up. Compared to the first time he'd handled an explosive at the Astor estate, Jax was now a natural. Since Tik-Hai didn't believe him, he was more than happy to give him a live demonstration. After pulling the pin, as people screamed and scrambled for cover, Jax precisely tossed the grenade toward Tik-Hai, who was still obliviously ordering his men to attack. The grenade rolled to a stop at Tik-Hai's feet. He finally lost it. Holy crap. You American is completely insane. Even if he suspected it was a fake, Tik-Hai wasn't stupid enough to stand there with a grenade at his feet. He turned and fled. Hey, you've even learned some of our national pastimes. I see, Jax said casually, watching the chaos with a calm heart. TSK, but you still have a lot of room for improvement, mister. Tik-Hai, having seen far grander spectacles with Lily, this little pond of scum was nothing he couldn't handle himself. Lily ignored the chaos, stepping forward to take Jax's hand again. She tilted her head, a strange, demonic curve to her red lips. Jax is learning so fast. We're not in the States. There's so much more we can do here. Would you like to try some of it? For instance, vivisection, or perhaps Professor Astor's special lecture, human organ transplantation and repair. Lily stood there, a dangerous fire flickering in her eyes. She stared at him, a midnight rose, beautiful and deadly. Jax's throat went dry. A strange impulse surged through his veins. Professor Astor, he murmured, remembering the time Lily had come to his university in a pristine white lab coat to teach a dissection class. He remembered the desperate, forbidden kisses they'd shared on the lecture stage. The memory alone, the sheer sensory overload, made his blood run hot. Along with it came a desire, a dark curiosity that Lily was slowly coaxing out of him, a desire to explore her world. No, it was her world, a new, terrifying, demonic world for him. But he felt no fear. In fact, he wanted nothing more than to step into it with her. It felt as if he had belonged there all along. Yes, Lily, that sounds like an excellent idea. Lily, satisfied with his response, leaned in and kissed his cheek. At the same moment, the grenade exploded. But it wasn't the deafening roar of a military-grade explosive. It was more like a large firecracker. Pop! The crowd, which had been stampeding for the exits, fell silent. They collectively cursed themselves for being fools, for actually believing some worm from the States could get his hands on a real grenade. Damn it! Tik-Hai, who had dived under a gambling table, shattering his tough guy image, was furious. Jax, you dare to screw with me. Chloe, huddled in a corner, was also shocked. She hadn't expected Jax to pull such a childish prank. But how could he not have a real explosive? He must be doing this on purpose, to humiliate Tick Hai, to show her that Tick Hai was unworthy of her. It was proof that, deep down, he still cared about her. He was just too scared of Aunt Lily to show it. Moved by this twisted logic, Chloe held her crooked face and gazed at Jax, trying her best to look pitiful and alluring. Tick Hai scrambled to his feet, his rage hitting critical levels. "Men, grab him. He's just some ordinary guy from the States. I'm going to teach him how terrifying Singapore can be. He touched my woman. I won't let him get away with this." In Tick Hai's mind, even though Jax hadn't laid a finger on Chloe, he had kicked her. That counted as touching, and he'd been staring at her. That was proof he coveted her. But his wife was beautiful enough. If he handed her over, maybe he could be persuaded to let him live. As Tick Hai gave the order again, the crowd, no longer believing Jax had any real weapons, advanced on him, their guns aimed at his head. Jax remained unruffled. He pulled out another identical grenade. The crowd. "Seriously, dude? You're going to try the same trick twice?" Tick Hai burst out laughing. "Jax, you really don't know when to quit. You think that little toy is going to save you? Tie him up. I want him alive. I'm going to personally send him to the work camps and have a real heart-to-heart with him." Jax raised an eyebrow. "Great. I was just thinking I want to have a heart-to-heart with you, too. Why don't we start right now?" He pulled the pin and tossed the grenade at Tick Hai again. "Heh, get him, the little..." Boom. Krakom. Tick Hai's smug sneer was cut off as he was annihilated by a deafening explosion and a wave of fire and debris. The crowd. What happened to the little firecracker? You don't play fair. The grenade had landed right at Tick Hai's feet. He had tried to dive away, but it was too fast. The blast swallowed him whole. As the ground shook, Jax instinctively spun around, shielding Lily with his body. The sight of his broad, warm shoulders protecting her stirred something in Lily's heart that even the explosion couldn't. He held her tight, wrapping her completely in his embrace. This time, through the ringing in her ears, Lily heard what he said. "Lily, the specimen for your dissection class. Here he is." His tone was so normal, devoid of the fear and horror he once would have shown. It was replaced by an aura as powerful as her own. She could feel him changing step by step, when the pure innocence in his eyes faded, replaced by a deep, cold darkness. That was when he was most familiar, just like he used to be, when he would take her hand with the same one he'd just used for vivisection. He would look down, fold a small star from a common weed found all over their desolate island, and place it in her palm. You have to live." The memory was like looking at flowers in a fog, a nightmare she could almost convince herself wasn't real. But the unnatural cold of the boy's hand holding hers was a stark reminder that it was. Lily's gaze on Jax became more complex. She curled into his embrace. "I knew it. I knew Jax would always protect me," she whispered. "Always, always, always." Lily's tone was tinged with a strange sorrow, but the blast was too loud for Jax to hear her clearly. He just held her tighter, a wave of guilt washing over him. When the ringing subsided, the spot where Tick Hai had been standing was a smoldering ruin. "I'm sorry, Lily," Jax murmured in her hair. "I ruined your dream of a normal life." He felt a pang of regret. He had promised her a normal, quiet life. After this, it would be impossible to keep their identities hidden. This was Singapore. While the laws were lax, a commotion this big would inevitably draw attention. Of course, Jax still had no idea just how terrifying his wife's international standing truly was. Lily hugged him back, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her. Her own heart slowly calmed. "It's okay, Jax. Isn't this a normal life? This isn't the peaceful U.S. In Singapore, doesn't a normal life include things like this? Relax. Let's just enjoy our 3 days here." Lily's hand gently stroked his face. Her touch was soft, but it carried an undercurrent of barely concealed pathology, as if she were desperately restraining herself from destroying the precious thing in front of her. "Yes, Jax belongs to me. Only to me." Even with Chloe's reappearance, her confidence in his feelings was unshakable. But Chloe Vance had been his white moonlight for years. Lily had seen with her own eyes how he had been willing to die for her. So, now that she had the chance to deal with Chloe, why wouldn't she? Lily looked up, her moist red lips like a poisonous rose. "Jax, shall I give you a lesson tonight? The same one that made Miss Vance lose control of her bladder in my class last time. Do you have any objections?" Her fingers slowly crept up his chest, tracing the line of his buttons, as if at any moment she might undo one and slip inside to feel the texture of his muscles, the accelerating beat of his heart. And this time, she continued, her voice a seductive whisper. "Let's have Miss Vance be our specimen. If you can't bring yourself to do it, Jax, I can teach you, hand over hand." But Students who don't perform well will have to be punished. We'll just have to bind your limbs with cold, hard iron chains and leave you at the mercy of the professor's punishment, won't we? Lily tilted her head up, a gorgeous, dangerous, poisonous flower in full bloom. For some reason, Jax loved this threatening side of her. Vicious, beautiful, possessive. This was the real Lily Astor, the true face she kept hidden. He had been afraid of it, but he had grown to accept it. And in the future, he would step into her pale, desolate world and plant it full of her favorite flowers. Of course, he murmured, his voice low and thrilling. A disobedient student who doesn't finish his homework must be left to the professor's mercy. The best way would be to call the bad student into the office for a private session after all the other students have gone home and lock the door. A grin spread across his face, wilder and harder to contain than an AK-47 on full auto. Lily raised an eyebrow, a dangerous glint in her eyes. TSK. Jax's idea wasn't without merit. It was just a shame they couldn't do it here in Singapore. A game like that would be most thrilling on his home turf, in the familiar environment of his university. An excellent idea, she purred. When we get back to the States, don't you try to run. Jax's heart leaped, his eyes bright with curiosity and excitement. After the explosion, the survivors stared at Jax and Lily with undisguised terror. Marco had long since found a place to hide, his wariness of the couple having reached its peak, which had in turn saved his life. Mr. Takai hadn't been so lucky. He lay in the rubble, covered in wounds, barely breathing. Oh, murder. Holy hell. He wasn't kidding, and he's got a sense of humor, pulling a fake out first. Mr. Takai is the head of the Vortex Casino. He just got taken out. This is a full-on raid. The Vortex Group is a top-tier criminal enterprise in Singapore. When they find out their casino was hit by someone from the U.S. Even if Jax gets out of here now, I guarantee he won't get out of the country alive. Man, you're worried about whether he'll escape? I'm worried about whether we'll escape. Who the hell is this guy? The wealthy tourists caught in the blast were stunned. Chloe, hiding behind a wall, peeked out like a rat. Her life was in danger, but Jax hadn't come to comfort her. He had gone straight to that monster, Lily. Why? She was the one he loved. He had defied Aunt Lily for her countless times in the past. Why was everything different now? Was it? Were all men the same? Was he disgusted that she hadn't given him her first time? But she was a pure, beautiful university student. This was the prime time to use her beauty to get what she wanted. She just wanted enough money to maintain her image as the campus belle. What was so wrong with that? Jax should have sympathized with her struggle. Fine. If he was so hung up on it, she would just get it surgically repaired when she got back to the States. She was willing to do that for him. Having rationalized this, Chloe began to sob softly. Sniff. Sob. Jax. Jax. I'm over here. Chloe's scared. Won't you come and hold me? She held out a hand. The explosion had left her covered in grime, and a piece of shrapnel had hit her leg, making it impossible to stand. She wiped away her tears, looking as pitiful and helpless as possible. This was her greatest weapon. She could always make men's hearts ache when she cried. But the current Jax's heart was harder than steel. He looked at her pathetic state, tilted his head with a strange, eerie curiosity, and swept his cold gaze over her body. Then he smiled. All right, back in New York, Kingston University. Facing Kira's relentless aggression, Sam's initial desire to spare her had hardened into resolve. He could tolerate her hurting him, but dragging Isabel Croft's name through the mud was a line she could not cross. Sam, you're really pulling out all the stops to avoid acknowledging my baby just so you can climb the social ladder, Kira sneered. You're so desperate to get rid of us, and you still claim you're not involved with Isabel? Some. You've really lucked out since leaving me. 3 million is a small price to pay for your freedom. It's a worthy investment for either of you. Kira was past the point of no return. She had already lost too much. She couldn't fail in her goal of getting the money. Fine, Sam said, his voice flat. Then let's all enjoy the little PowerPoint presentation on this flash drive. The lecture hall has a multimedia setup. I don't mind making this public, but out of respect for privacy, I'll only invite a few responsible parties to view it. Dean Evans, I trust you to handle this. And to prevent any accusations of me bribing people, I'll randomly select a few others from the crowd to watch. No photos or videos allowed inside. Sam still wanted to protect her privacy as much as possible. The images were so, while he knew they would be banned from any platform anyway. It was better to let a few influential people see the truth for themselves. Sam, what's on that flash drive? Are you just bluffing? Kira cried, playing the victim again. Sam, are you trying to kill me and my baby? But this time, Sam didn't show the video. He pulled out a few printed photos instead. Kira, the moment you decided to slander me and make me a laughingstock, our history was over. The only reason I'm still standing here talking to you is because I have more class than you do. Without another word, Sam held up the photos. They showed Kira entering hotels with different men. In some, she was with 2 men at once, looking disturbingly familiar with them. The timestamps went all the way back to the 2nd month of their freshman year. The evidence was a deafening slap in the face to the prim and proper belle of the foreign languages department. That's impossible. Where did you get those photos? How could you have pictures from that long ago? Kira's composure finally shattered. It was true. In her 2nd month of college, she had befriended Chloe Vance, who had introduced her to a circle of rich kids. At first, she played the part of the pure, studious girl, but she had quickly been seduced by the glamour of New York. A woman's body was a natural asset, and with it, she could obtain luxury goods she could never earn on her own. That was when she started to despise Sam. Luckily, he spent most of his time with Jax, who was supposedly on the fast track but didn't look much better off. The two of them worked day and night on academic competitions to win prize money, all to please her and Chloe. But the few thousand they won after months of hard work was nothing compared to the multiple designer bags a rich kid could buy her on a whim. Sam, of course, never noticed. A poor boy from a small town, his world consisted of studying and earning money. He probably didn't even recognize the luxury brand she wore. But she couldn't dump him. The deeper she got into that world, the more she realized she was just a toy. Like when Wyatt had gifted her to one of his friends, and she had to serve him with a smile. The sickest part was that these rich kids got a thrill from the fact that she had a boyfriend. It was the forced submission, the forbidden fruit, that made her so irresistible to them. This twisted psychology had slowly consumed her. But all of this was a dark secret, an unspoken rule in their circle. Kira, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Do you want me to show everyone the rest? Sam's voice was like ice. I told you, do not drag Isabel into our disgusting mess. Since you didn't listen, you can face the consequences. With photographic evidence and Sam's confident demeanor, contrasted with Kira's faltering denial, the crowd instantly understood. Damn, I almost fell for it. Poor guy was about to be forced into playing the cuckold. You have to admit, Sam was always one of the top students in the business school. Now that he's with Jax, he's set for life. I can't believe Kira was so short-sighted. So, she's being rewarded for her bad behavior by getting dumped. And now Isabel Croft is interested in him? I'd say he's come out on top. Am I the one who is curious as to what's in the U-disc? I'm afraid it's only more explosive, not the most explosive. I heard that the 2nd generation of rich people's circle is the most perverted, and Kira can actually accept it. No wonder she was so desperate to pin this on Sam. She probably doesn't even know who the real father is. The tide of public opinion turned against Kira, but Sam didn't care about that. He only wanted to protect one person's reputation. Isabel, he said, his voice soft. I can handle this myself. The content on this drive is filthy. It would stain your eyes. Please don't go in. He couldn't even stomach watching those videos. He couldn't understand how Kira could do those things for money. Was dignity really less important than cash? I don't have to watch, Isabel said with a light laugh, her long, slender fingers tracing the line of his jaw. But little Sam, I don't like being told what to do. If you offer me a little incentive, perhaps I might listen. TSK. This man was even better than she'd thought. So earnest, so pure. Like a flame she desperately wanted to possess. An incentive? I have nothing. What did you possibly want from me? Money? He didn't have enough to impress her. Looks? He couldn't compete with the perfectly packaged male celebrities in the entertainment industry. What was it about him? A bowl of plain rice porridge that had caught the eye of a woman used to feasting on imperial banquets. You. That's what I want. Her voice was a low purr. The incentive I want is something you can afford, little Sam. Be my private secretary for 3 days. How about it, Sam? Secretary? A man being a female superstar's private secretary. Isn't that a little intimate? To spare Isabel the sight of the truly depraved footage on the drive, Sam reluctantly agreed. He handed the USB stick to Dean Evans, letting him handle the fallout. Kira, still on the floor, was screaming and crying, trying one last desperate struggle, but the students turned spectators around her held her down firmly. The woman was completely unhinged, and everyone wanted to see justice done. One by one, students began emerging from the multimedia classroom, their faces pale with disgust. They glared at Kira, looking like they wanted to spit on her. Ugh, how can a person like you even exist? You're dragging the reputation of this entire university through the mud. Kira, you piece of trash. How dare you still show your face at Kingston? How dare you try to drag Sam down with you? Thank God he had proof. Otherwise, you would have ruined a future national talent. Sam's reputation on campus had always been stellar. His academic brilliance was his calling card. Kingston was full of gifted students, but to win at campus-wide and even national competitions meant you were the best of the best. Sam Cole and Jackson Pierce were both legends in that arena. It was a kind of halo that even a humble background couldn't dim. Soon, Dean Evans strode out, his face a thundercloud. "Kira, you will come to my office. Now." He pointed a trembling finger at her. "And you will call your parents. I want them here. I am expelling you. Not only have you engaged in the most sordid, shameful behavior, but you deliberately manipulated public opinion, using your teachers and classmates to slander Mr. Cole. You are. In my 30 years in academia, I have never seen such a shameless, reprehensible student. Call your parents. They need to be here." The dean was furious, but he also knew this scandal had to be contained. Kingston was a century-old institution. Its reputation couldn't be destroyed by one depraved student. He was immensely grateful that Sam hadn't chosen a scorched-earth approach by releasing the video publicly. At that moment, Sam met the dean's gaze with a steady, resolute look. Dean Evans understood the unspoken message perfectly. By suppressing the scandal, Sam had done Kingston University a massive favor. He was here today not just as a student, but as a manager from JX Innovations, discussing a talent pipeline program. Sam had swallowed his own pride and pain by not exposing the full truth. Now, Dean Evans had to reciprocate. It was an unspoken rule of social currency, something you never discussed aloud. "Sam," the dean said, his tone softening with contrition, "you were wronged in this matter. I will personally ensure the online chatter is scrubbed clean. On behalf of the university board, I apologize. And I promise you, this situation with Kira will be handled with the utmost severity." Sam's brow furrowed as he looked at Kira, who was still a sobbing, broken mess on the floor. He couldn't help but think of the strange dream Jax had told him about once. He'd said that in the dream, he'd lost everything trying to get justice for Kira, only to end up looking like a fool, never even learning the final truth. Most importantly, in that dream, Kira had killed herself. But looking at the Kira before him now, even after being so thoroughly exposed, she showed no signs of suicidal despair. Instead, her eyes burned with a vicious hatred, as if she was plotting her revenge. Would a woman like this, a woman who had betrayed her own soul, really jump from a building just because some rich kid like Wyatt dumped her? For some reason, even though Jax insisted it was just a dream, the look on his face had held a strange, unsettling certainty. It was as if it wasn't a dream at all, but something he had actually lived through. The way he had looked at Sam back, then, with a mixture of pity and relief. Those eyes seemed to say, "Thank God. Thank God Sam didn't die this time, didn't become a tool for someone else's revenge." It was as if Jax had truly experienced it all once before. Sam was an avid reader in his spare time. He was no stranger to concepts like reincarnation or time travel in fiction. And when he thought about all the changes in Jax since he'd rolled up to Kingston in that hypercar, it was like he was playing life with cheat codes, always knowing where the next big thing was. He'd changed completely, no longer pathetically chasing Chloe Vance, but smartly pivoting to the infinitely more powerful Lilith Astor. The transformation was so absolute. It was identical to the character arcs in the novels he'd read. Could it be? Was Jax someone who had come back from the future? Had he been reborn? Sam didn't dare think about it too deeply, but a part of him had already accepted the theory. As long as Jax didn't want to talk about it, he wouldn't press the issue and cause him trouble. All he needed to know was that if Jax was okay, he would be okay too. So in that past life, Kira had committed suicide. After piecing it all together, Sam decided to give Dean Evans a subtle warning. But something still felt wrong. If Kira had really jumped from a building in a past life, then in this life, she could choose from 1,000 ways to die. Yet the woman before him showed no signs of that kind of despair. Could it be that in her past life, she was murdered? The thought sent a jolt of alarm through Sam. As he stood there, lost in thought, Isabel Croft appeared at his side, gently tapping his shoulder. "Sam, what are you thinking about?" she murmured, her voice a soft melody. "You know, you can share your secrets with me, too." Sam was snapped out of his thoughts by Isabel's voice. This was one secret he could never tell anyone, not even the woman he idolized. In his world, Jax came before everyone else. Maybe that's what Jax had meant. Why in his past life, after choosing to die for Kira, Sam had left his few remaining possessions to Jax. Their bond, their brotherhood, was irreplaceable. "Isabel," he said, deflecting, "I was just thinking, how did Kira turn into this? When we were kids, we relied on each other. We were both top students. We worked together to get out of that dead-end town. No one knows better than me how hard she worked for this, Sam continued, a genuine sadness in his voice. She was gifted and natural at her studies. Otherwise, she never would have made it to Kingston on her own merit, never would have escaped the mountains. He truly didn't understand it. But what hurt more was the thought of her parents. He knew them, knew how much they had sacrificed. How devastated would they be to see what their daughter had become? But that wasn't his problem anymore. He was finally completely done with Kira. If she hadn't pulled this stunt, he might have even given her some money to help her and the child get settled. Now, he wouldn't give her a single cent. The Kira he knew was gone, replaced by a monster he didn't recognize. Sam, she chose her own crooked path. You have to believe that whatever decisions people make, they have to live with the consequences, Isabel said. She was breathtakingly beautiful, her presence radiating a soft, gentle light. Her oval face was flawless, her voice a soothing balm. Sam found his gaze drifting to her lips. They were the color of cherry blossoms, soft and full, with a perfect Cupid's bow that seemed to invite a kiss. It took him a moment to shake himself free of the spell. He processed her words, a storm of emotions churning inside him. If Kira had to pay for her actions, then what about Isabel? She had just publicly declared she was pursuing him, a nobody, in front of the entire world. In the star-studded universe of entertainment, he was nothing. He suddenly felt a surge of protectiveness, a desperate need to shield her. He didn't have the power to control public opinion. Isabel, can you take back what you said? He asked earnestly. You could just post on Twitter that you were joking, that you were just doing a favor for Ms. Astor. The narrative would flip instantly. You're a national treasure, he blurted out, and I'm just a regular guy. We don't make sense. I don't want to drag you down. He was a responsible man. When he fell for someone, he gave his entire heart. It had been that way with Kira. If he ever loved again, it would be the same. But he knew that to someone like Isabel, he was probably just a momentary distraction, a toy. She could snap her fingers and have 100 men like him. He couldn't let himself become her plaything. He had too much to do. Most importantly, he had to help Jax build his empire. He was convinced Jax was from the future, that with his prophetic instincts, building a top-tier corporate empire was only a matter of time. Sam, I understand what you're saying, she replied, her eyes clear and steady. And no matter how many times I say it, you won't believe me. I don't care about public opinion. It can't influence my decisions. So all I need is for you to do as I say. The rest, we leave to time. Her tone shifted, hardening slightly. You already agreed to be my private secretary for 3 days. You can't go back on your word. Come to my place tonight. I've already sent my personal assistant home. You need to take over immediately, managing my schedule, my meals, everything. The sudden shift from gentle goddess to domineering commander was intoxicating. A woman this beautiful and composed, suddenly giving orders with such confidence. Sam had to admit, he was completely captivated. Ahem. Okay, he coughed, his cheeks flushing. Yes, ma'am. Isabel. But she gave him no time to process. She took a step closer, closing the distance between them. A warm, fragrant breath escaped her lips as she looked up at him, the corners of her eyes crinkling with a dazzling, mischievous light. Still calling me Isabel? Her voice was a husky whisper. Sam, as my private secretary, I think you should use a different title. Now, it was Sam's turn to be flustered. What? What was he supposed to call her? He'd met her assistant, and everyone called her Isabel. Should he be more formal? More respectful? Ms. Croft, he stammered. He didn't dare call her Ms. Astor. That title belonged to the formidable woman at Jax's side. Besides, using the name Isabel Croft felt too familiar, and he knew Isabel Astor was a name she never used publicly. He couldn't risk revealing it. He leaned in closer, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. The proximity was electric, their hushed tones creating an intense, intimate bubble. He was so nervous, he didn't even notice the blush deepening on her own cheeks as he moved toward her, a rosy hue creeping up her ears. Wrong, she purred, her long lashes fluttering. Her whole being seemed to radiate a captivating charm, a stray lock of hair brushing against her cheek, adding to her allure. Sam is the secretary, and I am your. Sam's Adam's apple bobbed. The word escaped his lips before he could stop it, a subconscious reply. Master. The moment he said it, a slow burn crept up the back of his neck, his face turning a shade of crimson. His heart pounded against his ribs. She hummed, a delighted smile spreading across her lips. Well, aren't you a quick learner? That's my boy. Her eyes drank in his blush. I like that very much. A young man's blush was more potent than 1,000 declarations of love. It was more than enough to excite her. Of course, she'd also heard another saying, a man's tears are a woman's aphrodisiac. She wondered when she might get to taste that particular stimulant. Ah, Isabel, I have to go. You at home? Aye. I'll report for duty tonight. As a veteran of the working world, Sam had the instincts of a born subordinate. Even as he was being teased until he felt like a boiled lobster, he couldn't forget to dutifully report in to his new boss. With that, he practically bolted, running as if his life depended on it. He couldn't handle it. He really couldn't. He was just a simple, ordinary STEM guy. To say he had zero impure thoughts about Isabel Croft, the ultimate fantasy girl, the stunning, gentle, dazzling superstar, would be a bald-faced lie. But his rational mind screamed at him, don't get lost in her beauty. Focus on your career. Career. But with a single playful glance from her, a wicked thought popped into his head for the first time. She's into you, you idiot. Screw your career. Landing Isabel Croft is the career. You could live like a king as her boy toy, and it would still be the deal of a lifetime. She was a national goddess, A-list movie star, the lips, the legs, the face, the wealth and fame. She was the absolute pinnacle. Just one night with her would be a story to brag about for the rest of his life. Sam was torn. Two little figures were duking it out in his brain. What am I going to do tonight? How am I supposed to face her? He wandered aimlessly for a while until he found himself walking into a mall. Without thinking, his feet carried him into a high-end, bespoke suit shop, a place he would normally never dare to enter. If I'm going to stand next to Isabel Croft, he reasoned, trying to convince himself, I at least need to look the part. Right, he mumbled, I'm a manager at JX Innovations now. A decent suit is a work necessity. It's not because I want to impress her. Yeah, right? Night fell. After agonizing for what felt like an eternity, Sam dutifully arrived at the address Isabel had sent him, dressed in his brand-new, custom-tailored suit. He had imagined she'd live in a sprawling estate like Lily's, a magnificent, self-contained world of luxury. Instead, her residence was a high-rise penthouse in an exclusive neighborhood not far from the city's film studios, clearly chosen for convenience. The security, however, was fortress-like. After Isabel's public declaration, Twitter had exploded. The university administration had moved quickly to shut down the gossip among the student body about the incident with Kira, but that didn't stop people from digging into Sam's background. His identity was quickly unearthed. Manager at JX Innovations. His stellar academic record and list of awards were plastered everywhere, clearly the result of a deep-dive investigation someone had commissioned. As expected, with a little nudge from some powerful capital, the narrative on social media began to shift. At Goddess_Watcher, oh man, my Queen Isabel has won every award under the sun for her movies and shows. Her track record is flawless. So what if she wants to play with a pure, innocent college kid? Some of you fans better not scare away the fish she's about to land. At Izzy forever. Isabel, no. My goddess. Why are you coming down to earth? You're too perfect. No one should be allowed to tarnish you. At RealTalk_77. Is it just me? Or does this college kid seem not so simple? He's only a sophomore, and he's already a manager at a company like JX Innovations? Sounds like a classic pretty boy climbing the ladder on his back. Isabel, don't be fooled by his abs. At Spill the Tea. Hell yeah. I support our queen eating a gourmet meal. I hear college boys are at their peak. Wouldn't that be like a youth restoring tonic for her? Winking face. At Facts Only. LOL, what's not to like about a college kid? They're the best. At Team Isabel. Isabel has spent her whole life focused on acting. Now that she's finally interested in romance, we can't let her plans fall apart. At Hold Up, wait a minute, wait. Am I the only one who caught the most important part? She hasn't even gotten the guy yet. She's still pursuing him, which means this college kid has the audacity to not say yes to Isabel Croft. My God, what kind of man can resist her? A true role model for us all. The internet was a whirlwind of opinions. Thankfully, most of it wasn't too outrageous. And at that moment, the man at the center of the storm was standing at the door of Isabel's penthouse. He pressed the doorbell, and the door quickly swung open. Sam's heart hammered in his chest as he stepped inside, carrying a small bag with a change of clothes. He couldn't shake the feeling that showing up at Isabel's place tonight made him feel less like a guest and more like takeout, a delicious little cake delivered to her door, the kind that quenches thirst and satisfies cravings. The door opened to reveal Isabel in a completely new look. She wore a soft, blush pink lounge dress. The fabric was form-fitting, clinging to her curves and showcasing her stunning figure. Her chest, full and ripe like a perfect peach, seemed to spill from the delicate neckline. Sam, you're here, she said, smiling as she looked up at him. Come in quickly. I'm making us dinner. You haven't eaten yet, have you? I'm not much of a cook, so it might not be very good. Please don't mind. Her long, wavy hair cascaded over her shoulders, a few strands artfully tangled over the very curves he was trying not to stare at, tangling his thoughts along with them. I won't mind, he stammered. Isabel, why are you cooking? Let me do it. He stepped inside, suddenly remembering his official role as her private assistant. She had probably given her real assistant the night off, leaving her with no one to cook for her. It was his job now, and he had to take it seriously. He was meticulous. When he promised to do something, he did it right. Though this was his first time as a personal assistant, it wasn't his first time taking care of someone. He started toward the kitchen, ready to help. Don't worry about it, Sam. I'm already halfway done, she said gently. This is an old family recipe my grandmother taught me. You would know it. But if you really want to help, could you tie my hair back for me with this silk scarf? It keeps getting in the way. Her voice was soft, phrased as a question he couldn't possibly refuse. Okay. Sam spotted a silk scarf lying on the sofa. For some reason, its placement seemed a little too convenient, a little too obvious. But he didn't have time to dwell on it. He followed her into the kitchen and stood behind her. He clumsily gathered her long, fragrant hair, his fingers fumbling with the silk as he tried to tie it. The intimate act inevitably brought them closer. A pot of soup simmered on the stove, and the warm steam that rose from it seemed to heat his entire body, causing beads of sweat to form on his forehead. Sam, are you hot? Just as he was finishing the knot, Isabel suddenly turned around, stepping forward and closing the remaining space between them. The back of his legs hit the counter. Her cool, pale fingers touched his forehead as she tilted her head up, her crystalline eyes shimmering with a heart-stopping beauty. Maybe you should take your clothes off before you come in to help me, she whispered, her voice husky. You're distracting me. Take my clothes off. Sam was stunned. The signal was so direct he instinctively tried to back away, but he'd forgotten he was already trapped. Isabel had him cornered in the narrow kitchen, the counter at his back. He had nowhere to retreat, no choice but to face her. Her fingertips brushed across his forehead, deftly wiping away a single bead of sweat. Sam stared, mesmerized. The feeling of her touch, the sight of his own sweat, now glistening on her skin. It was too much. The heat intensified. It was impossibly intimate. Yes, aren't you hot, Sam? She murmured, her voice a low, seductive hum. Or, do you want me to help you? She was so close he could smell the unique, intoxicating scent of her perfume. And no, that's not necessary, Isabel. I can do it myself, he stammered, feeling like an ant on a hot pan. His mind was a chaotic mess, a whirlpool of desire and restraint. He had to stay in control. He couldn't disrespect her. He reached out to gently push her away, careful not to use too much force. But in his haste, his hand brushed against the soft, full curve of her breast. The contact sent a jolt through him, and his already frantic heart felt like it was boiling over. Ah, he gasped, pulling his hand back as if burned. Isabel, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I was out of line. You should tell me to leave now. He wanted the floor to swallow him whole. In his panic, he didn't see the flash of triumph in her eyes, the way she coolly admired the blush that now burned at the tips of his ears. Isabel had been in the flashy, fickle world of entertainment for years. Everyone was an actor. They could all perform love flawlessly. But what did it really feel like to like someone? She'd lost interest long ago. It was all just a series of predictable gestures and expressions. A racing heart? A deep blush? Impossible. But Sam's genuine, youthful innocence captivated her. It held her gaze and sparked her interest. It's okay, she purred, a slow smile spreading across her lips. It was bound to happen eventually. Think of this as a little preview. Her body was surprisingly soft, her voice a bewitching melody as she casually tossed her hair back. What? Sam felt like his brain was about to short-circuit. What is she saying? Does she even hear herself? The words were so bold, so directed at him. It was way over the line. It's nothing. It was an accident, Sam. Not on purpose, she continued smoothly. Of course I don't mind. But, while I may be an actress, I'm also a woman. And a woman's body isn't meant to be touched so casually, you know. She turned her back to him and returned to the stove, her graceful silhouette stirring the pot of soup. Her movements were a little clumsy, the work of someone who didn't cook often. And yet, here she was. Cooking for him? Was this a coincidence, or was it all for him? Sam couldn't tell anymore. But what he knew for sure was that while he had been trying so hard to reject her advances, tonight felt different. It felt like both of them were trying to break through the delicate barrier between them. Isabel, please don't talk about yourself like that, he said, his voice earnest. You're an A-list star, showered with honors. You're not just some actress. The term felt derogatory, and for her to use it on herself felt like a deliberate attempt to lower her status, to close the gap between them, to make him feel less intimidated. But Sam didn't need that. The moon he admired belonged high in the night sky, where its light could reach those who looked up in awe. "Are you trying to comfort me, Sam?" she chuckled. "Relax, I'm just teasing you. No one can deny my value as an artist. Isn't that one of the things you like about me?" She carried the soup tureen out of the kitchen. Tonight, she was the image of domestic grace. The silk scarf holding back her hair seemed to restrain her wilder, sharper nature. The warm light softened the angles of her flawless face, and for a moment, Sam was completely lost in the sight of her. Her words hit him, leaving him speechless. Or do you not like me, Sam?" Sensing his stiffness, she moved closer again. She was as gentle and ethereal as the moon's reflection on water. After setting the hot soup on the table, she tilted her head and looked at him, her smile blooming like a flower. Sam was done for her. The goddess he had worshipped from afar was cooking for him, smiling at him so tenderly, and most importantly, the memory of that accidental, breathtakingly soft touch. It all felt like a dream. He had to admit, he was completely and utterly enchanted. And the truth was, he did like her. A lot. Who could resist their ultimate celebrity crush, seducing them from inches away? Who could possibly fight that? I do like you, he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "You're my favorite goddess, Isabel. My one and only. Actually, I'm one of the admins for your fan club." He felt a blush creep up his neck as he spoke. Even as they talked, his meticulous nature took over, and he began setting the table, arranging the dishes she had made. His hands were busy, but his mind was a turbulent sea. I know," Isabel purred, leaving him with that single, devastating sentence as she returned to the kitchen. Her affection for him wasn't some random whim. They had crossed paths before, many times. In countless moments where Sam thought he was an invisible face in the crowd, she had noticed the handsome, vibrant young man. She knew his heart. She understood his soul. Her feelings for him were like a vast, transparent ocean, enveloping the wind that was Sam. He froze. She knew. Isabel said she knew? How? How could she possibly know? In all their recent interactions, she had learned his name, yes, but his fan club profile used a pink avatar, and he deliberately registered as female. He was a grown man. Being a fangirl was something he was a little embarrassed about. She was the dazzling star he had secretly admired for years. He was insignificant dust. She was the moon in the heavens. They should have never intersected. If it weren't for Jax and Lily disrupting the balance of his world, he would never have had the right to even appear in her orbit, let alone be noticed by her. They worked in a comfortable silence, bringing the rest of the dishes to the table. They sat across from each other. "Sam, thank you for coming to keep me company," she said, her voice soft. "How about we have some red wine? And if you're really tired from all that cooking," she teased, "you can do the dishes later." The joke made Sam even more flustered. "Okay, I'll do the dishes." Even though I'm sure she has a dishwasher, he thought. He felt useless. He was supposed to be her private assistant, but she was the one taking care of him. "Uffed," she giggled. "You're such a little goofball. Come on, try my cooking. This is a recipe my grandmother taught me. You're the first man I've ever cooked this for." Sam nearly choked. "Sam, why are you so cute?" she teased, her voice dripping with amusement. "Did you just get excited hearing my first man?" The beautiful, elegant woman beside him was joking, but the topic was quickly veering into dangerous territory. Excited? Or was it another kind of excitement, the throbbing, pulsating kind? At the Vortex Casino in Singapore, a strange smile played on Jax's lips. It was directed at Chloe Vance, and it was utterly bone-chilling. Chloe sensed something was wrong, but she was so used to the old Jax, the one who had given her his absolute unconditional devotion, that she clung to the hope of it. When he'd agreed to help her, she had grasped onto his words like a drowning woman finding a life raft in this foreign land. Jax, come help me," she whined, her voice laced with a practiced frailty. She was used to ordering him around, and the words came naturally. "My leg hurts so much. Something fell on it during the explosion. Will you come carry me?" she cooed, assuming her usual damsel-in-distress act would work its magic. She was certain that no matter how much he feared Lilith Astor, seeing her so injured would surely awaken his pity. "Chloe, did that explosion scramble your brains?" Jax's voice was ice. "Maybe you should worry about your pimp first. What happened? Caleb finally got tired of you and sent you out to sell yourself? Makes sense. After all these years, he must be sick of you. I guess that means it's my turn." He trailed off, the rest of the thought too disgusting to voice aloud. His idea of playing was a world away from Caleb's. "Marco," Jax commanded. Get her on her feet. I think Ms. Vance needs some time in the quiet room to calm down. He felt sick just looking at her, but he couldn't forget. In the middle of the night, the nightmares still came. Of this woman, this self-proclaimed surgical student, slicing open his abdomen with her own hands, all to steal his kidney for Caleb. Back then, he had lain on that hospital bed, helpless, wishing for death. It was time for Chloe to taste that feeling herself. As for Mr. Takai, Jack said, turning to his aide, Nathan, you handle things here. He then looked at Lily, his expression softening into something dark and intimate. Lily, there's a certain subject I've practiced countless times, in private, even in my dreams, but I've never quite perfected it. Since we have such a wonderful opportunity, and such a permissive legal environment, would you teach me? Personally, Jax wasn't lying. His own brutal death was a recurring nightmare he couldn't escape. But what tormented him even more was that he had dragged Lily down with him. The more he fell in love with her, the more he couldn't bear the thought of her dying. So every time that nightmare replayed, he was ripped apart by agony. But running from fear was useless. It was time to face it head on, to kill it. Lily's face was a mask of cold, noble beauty. When Jax wasn't looking, an aura of inviolable, murderous pride surrounded her. But the moment he spoke to her, the Ice Queen melted, her entire being drawn to his command. Of course, she breathed. Whatever Jax wants, I will do. It would be my honor. She already knew what he was planning. She used to think he held back because he couldn't bear to hurt Chloe. Now she saw the truth. Back in the States, it was his respect for the law that had protected the little bitch. Here in Singapore, things were much more interesting. Whatever lesson Jax wants to learn, Lily said, her eyes flicking to Nathan, I will arrange everything perfectly. Nathan understood instantly and gestured for his men to get to work. A single word from the young master, he thought with a sigh, and the boss treats it like a holy command. And who gets to run around like a workhorse to make it happen? Us. Half an hour later, the room that had held Liu Zhong had been transformed into a sterile operating theater. Liu, though blind, could still smell. The familiar, sharp scent of surgical disinfectant filled the air, and his body began to writhe violently in the jar. He was terrified. Chloe was thrown onto the floor next to him, her hands still bound. Seeing the time was right, Nathan ripped the blindfold from her eyes and pulled the gag from her mouth. Ms. Vance, it'll be your turn soon, Nathan said, his voice deceptively casual. Just giving you a little time to prepare yourself. As Lily's most senior follower, he had a truly wicked sense of humor. He looked so innocent, so harmless as he blinked his eyes. Go on, cherish the last few moments of your life. His expression seemed to say, see how kind I am, giving you a heads up. Chloe huddled in the corner, feeling the large, jar-like object next to her tremble and emit strange, muffled whimpers. It sounded human, but not quite. She was petrified. She remembered her mother's warning. Never, ever provoke her Aunt Lily. The woman was a monster, a maniac who had destroyed her own family. But Chloe had thought she could control the monster by controlling the man who tamed her. She had relished the power, the feeling of grinding the feared Lilith Aster under her heel, while Lily could do nothing. It was a delicious, intoxicating vanity. Now, regret was a bitter poison in her throat. She trembled, her eyes finally opening, tears soaking the fabric that had covered them. She looked cautiously, curiously, at the ceramic jar beside her. H, she shrieked. Help! Help me! There's a monster! A monster! What is that thing? It looks like a person. Terrified, Chloe scrambled backward, trying to drag her injured leg away. Just then, Jax's tall, lean figure stepped in front of her. He looked down at the woman who had once been the revered campus queen of Kingston University. A cruel smile touched his lips. Oh, him? He used to be a person, Jax said conversationally. Now, he's what you might call a human swine. You're a student, Chloe. I'm sure you've heard the term. It's a famous punishment from history. Would you like to try it? Chloe's scalp tingled with fear. The man in front of her was not the Jax she knew. He was a terrifying stranger. Who are you? She stammered. Get out of Jax's body. Get out. Chloe recoiled as if she had seen a ghost in broad daylight, her soul seeming to flee her body. Her face was ashen, and her tear-filled eyes, once a weapon of seduction, were now wild with pure, unadulterated terror. Oh, a human swine? She knew what it meant. To have your limbs amputated, to be stuffed into a jar, your eyes gouged out, and your tongue cut away, forced to live a life worse than any animal, unable to even die properly. Her own beauty was everything to her. The living, squirming proof of that fate right before her eyes was enough to shatter her sanity. She couldn't bear to look at Jax. She tried to flee, a crazed desperation propelling her, but the searing pain in her leg dragged her back to reality. Ah! Jax! Jax, you loved me, didn't you? You loved me most of all. Please don't do this to me. I'm begging you. Please, Jax, I'll do anything you want, just don't turn me into a monster. I'll do anything. Chloe was hysterical, tears streaming down her face. But her tears were no longer the precious pearls that drove men wild. They were just useless drops of water. No one would pity her now. Beg me. Jax's voice was calm, almost gentle. Chloe, I might be willing to let you go. I'm sure you still have vivid memories of Professor Astor's little lesson back at Kingston. Why don't we use you as the test subject this time? You know, this is Singapore, not the United States. Back home, your family connections might protect you. But here, you're just Julia, a nameless, stateless prostitute from the red light district. He paused, letting the words sink in. Unfortunately for you, your life is no longer worth much. He slowly, deliberately pulled on a pair of surgical gloves. Behind him, Lily emerged, dressed in a sterile white coat. The white contrasted sharply with her Snow Queen arrogance, temporarily masking her murderous aura. She was undeniably, breathtakingly beautiful. The moment she appeared, all eyes were drawn to her, but her stunning looks were so aggressive, so dangerous, that no one dared to look for long. Jax, she said, her voice a low hum, what subject would you like to learn today? Her eyes, dark and deep, held a chilling coldness. Just her glance made Chloe tremble even more. This place, it was hell, and she had no way out. This was a lawless land, devoid of morality and justice. If Jax hadn't had the power to counter Mr. Tikai, he would have been the one sent to the organ processing plant. The people here had no humanity. Organs were money, blood was money, and even a living person could be used to lure in more money through scams and sex. It was a world without a soul. And the terrifying part was, Jax seemed to fit right in. Had he truly changed so completely? Jax looked at Lily, a slow, leisurely smile gracing his lips. Let's learn how to dissect a human kidney. In his past life, Chloe had carved out one of his kidneys, claiming it was to save Caleb, without a single thought for his survival. Some things, once started, need an end. So why not? Let her taste for herself what it felt like to scream for a god that would never answer. Since my student is so eager to learn, I certainly can't neglect his education, Lily said smoothly. Chloe, you should feel honored. You get to be the very first masterpiece created by Jax's own hands. She glided forward, bending down. Her gloved fingertips touched Chloe's cheek, then twisted, gripping her jaw. Auntie Lily, I beg you, let me go, Chloe sobbed. Jax and I are ancient history. Even if you hate me, you shouldn't use his hands to do this. I was his white moonlight, the one pure love of his life. If you make him extinguish that flame himself, even if he obeys you now, he'll resent you for the rest of his life. Seeing no other way out, Chloe tried her favorite tactic, sowing discord. But this time, she had miscalculated completely. Is that so? Lily's voice was silk and ice. A white moonlight. But is it still a white moonlight after the worshipper extinguishes it with his own hands? Lily was no longer trapped in a spiral of self-doubt. She had Jax's unwavering devotion. She trusted his love for her. So what was there to fear? Chloe was simply an eyesore. Jax wanting to remove her himself was a convenience. It saved her the trouble of having Nathan dispose of her after they left. Chloe felt herself about to faint, but in the next second, Lily leaned down and a clear liquid from a syringe pierced her skin. Her consciousness became painfully, terrifyingly clear. Fainting was no longer an option. This is a famous reagent here in Singapore, Lily explained conversationally. It was originally developed for the black market organ trade. It keeps the kidneys in prime condition while allowing the donor to remain conscious. They put you in an ice bath to preserve the organs and numb the pain. And when you wake up, you see your own abdomen sliced open. Your organs scattered outside your body. The despair, the helplessness. I thought you might like to experience it, Chloe. You could try to anger me. Lily's voice dropped to a whisper. But you should really consider whether you can handle my wrath. Chloe had been in Singapore long enough, and close enough to Mr. Tikai to know about this drug. She knew what it meant to be awake while being treated like a container, your parts picked over like produce. Some victims, upon waking, killed themselves immediately. Chloe had sworn she would never be one of them. But now she was terrified. Annie, I was wrong. Please spare me. The next moment, Nathan had hauled her up with one hand and dragged her into the makeshift sterile operating room. So noisy, Lily mused, picking up a scalpel with practiced ease. Perhaps we should remove the tongue first. Jax stood behind her, his gaze soft, filled not with fear, but with a deepening, adoring fascination. Nathan saw the look and did a double take. Is he okay? The young master has to be sick in the head. Any normal person would be running for the hills, seeing the boss like this, ready to butcher someone. But he's looking at her like he wants to kiss this. This demoness. Isn't his taste a little extreme? What do you think, Jax? Lily asked, turning to meet his loving eyes. Her own heart skipped a beat. However you teach, that's how I'll do it, Jax murmured, his gaze darkening, his eyes sparkling like a starry river. Just don't tire yourself out. Or the baby. He remembered the potent drug Jessica had used on him. He'd had Sam investigated. The trail led straight to Caleb. The findings were startling. The drug had a bizarre side effect. It was less a drug and more of a mystical fertility potion that almost guaranteed pregnancy. So, was it possible? Could Lily already be carrying their child? The thought slipped out before he could stop it. Baby. Lily's brow furrowed. Jax, are you calling me baby? Well, Lily likes it when Jax baby calls her that. How could I get tired? Jax blinked, right? He'd forgotten how single-minded she got when she was focused on a task. She'd completely misinterpreted him. He felt a wave of relief. Better she didn't know about his suspicion. Not yet. It was just a possibility, after all. He would cherish her all the same, whether she was carrying his child or not. He stepped forward with a smile. Yes, I'm just worried my baby will get tired. You teach me, and I'll follow your every move, okay? Lying on the operating table with a gag in her mouth, Chloe's eyes widened in horror. Wait, am I just a prop in their twisted foreplay? Their time in Singapore passed quickly. Jax was anxious about Lily's illness and had no intention of staying for long. Lily, he said, holding her hand as they strolled through the estate's back garden. You've got a stalk of the crimson knot root. Have you taken it yet? I looked it up in some old texts. It's a very potent herb. It can't be taken alone. The properties are too intense. It can make a person lose control. He didn't know what a normal couple's time together was like, but being with Lily brought him a profound sense of peace, a warmth that only a loved one could provide. Is that so? Lily looked away, a hint of guilt in her eyes. She had, in fact, taken it alone the moment she got it. And she had indeed lost control, but thankfully, Jax had been there, her perfect antidote. After her release, she had felt refreshed, and the uncomfortable symptoms had subsided recently. But she knew the herb was only a temporary fix, suppressing the volatile reaction in her body. Her health was failing, and she was sure it was all connected to the Astor family's dark secret. From the first Astor woman to die suddenly at 25, her Aunt Celeste, to her sister, Yenyu, and now her. They were all sacrifices in some grand, monstrous conspiracy. For years, her enemies had been too scared to move against her. But if something were to happen to her, the Astor family would descend into chaos. A weakling like Leo Astor wouldn't be able to control the old guard. How could she rest easy? It was intense, she admitted, her voice low, but I got through it. Don't worry, Jax. I know my own body. I feel much better after taking it. It's just, we were a bit rough that day. My back is still a little sore. Can you rub it for me? She looked down, the tips of her ears turning red. They were surrounded by a vast field of purple roses, the mysterious, deep violet flowers like a silent, bottomless pool. Above them, the sky was a canvas of fiery sunset colors. From a distance, the horizon was split in two, one dazzling, one deep, one warm light, one silent darkness. Just like Lily herself, gazing up at Jax. The evening light illuminated his features, making him look almost sacred, a dazzling light that shouldn't be touched. Suddenly, she felt a pang of reluctance. It was Jax who had taken her hand, bit by bit, and taught her how to love, who had walked into her darkness to save her. But she, a person already drowning in mud, was she just going to let him sink into her madness with her? Was it fair to him? The decisive, ruthless Lilith Astor, who had never felt a shred of compassion for anyone, was now frowning, her heart aching for the sacrifices Jax had made. Her Jax! Even without her, he could have gone back to the Jeongs, had a family who loved him, enjoyed the warmth of a real home. But with her, he had to live in constant fear of her impending death, his own heart breaking every time she suffered. Lily had always considered herself cold and heartless. But when it came to Jax, she couldn't help but feel a tender ache. He was her husband. She couldn't bear for him to live like this. So Lily, a small voice whispered, should you choose to let him go? Just like in the dream Jax had told her about. In that dream, she had grown weaker by the day, eventually having to go abroad to hide her deteriorating health. She was smart enough to guess it was their past, their previous life. Hadn't her past self left him, resigned to her fate? What about now? If she let him go now, Jax would be free from his own blood-sucking family. He could finally find happiness. And this time, without her entanglement, he would surely be better off. Lily, baby, what are you thinking about? Jax's voice was a low murmur. I'm sorry. I wasn't there for you when the medicine hit you hard. But it's okay. I'll never let you face anything like that alone again. For a long time, I was trapped in a vortex, needing to prove myself. In that dream, being betrayed and abandoned by my family until the very end. I resented the Pierces, I hated them, and my mind was almost consumed by hatred. I wanted to prove how powerful I was to show them how blind they were. But life is your own. I realize that now. You are the most important thing in my life. I shouldn't have been so focused on fame and validation that I wasn't there for the person I love most when she was suffering. Lily, I'm sorry. I failed in my duty as a husband. The moment he heard her say she got through it, his heart clenched. For a second, he felt like he was losing his grip on her, as if the flower that haunted his dreams was withering just as he was about to grasp it. The feeling terrified him. They sat on a bench, and as he spoke, he diligently rubbed her lower back. She was still too thin, her body as fragile as a dandelion in the wind, as if a single gust could scatter her to the four corners of the earth, leaving nothing for him to hold, to protect. It's okay, Jax, she whispered. Can you tell me? In that dream, why did you never fall in love with me? Jax, do you really love me? Or was it her obsession that had cornered him, her death for him that had brought him back out of guilt, compelling him to stay by her side? If that was the case, then when her time truly came, if he didn't see it with his own eyes, maybe he wouldn't be so heartbroken. Her question made Jax's pupils dilate. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. It was true. In his past life, he hadn't loved this woman who had sacrificed everything for him. But since his return, the longer he stayed with her, the more he felt the searing heat of her love. A complicated person like him needed someone who would refuse to be pushed away. Lilith Astor's possessiveness, her fierce, unwavering protection. It had completely melted his heart. Of course I love you, he said firmly. Lily, what are you thinking? It was just a dream. It doesn't count. I only believe in the now. And right now, I love you so much. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to allow you to have these kinds of thoughts. If you really can't hold on, I'll die with you. Lily, dying for love isn't just some old myth. I could do it for you, too. So this lifetime, don't even think about pushing me away. I'll get angry. He pulled her into a fierce hug, his voice indignant, but his heart was trembling with fear. They had been inseparable for so long. He knew her better than anyone. The Lilith Astor he knew never second-guessed herself. She was decisive. She was ruthless. She was possessive. But her heart was no longer as hard as iron. Love had given her a vulnerability, and with it, fear. Love gives rise to sorrow. Love gives rise to fear. She was no longer just a weapon wielded by the Astor family. She could be afraid. She could have someone to lean on. She could rest when she was tired. And it was his responsibility for the rest of his life to be that person for her. Dying for love isn't just some old myth. For some reason, the words sounded uniquely romantic coming from him. That's right, he whispered against her hair. In the dream, we lived and died together. You died for me. But this time, I will stand firmly by your side. If we reach the end of the road, I'll give you my life. It's no big deal. Lily, I think I'm starting to see parts of the Astor family's secret. Can you share with me completely? We're husband and wife. Don't carry all the danger and pain by yourself. Please. Back in New York, Sam sat at the dining table, trapped. Isabel had stood up, leaning over the table toward him, and the view she presented had him completely frozen in place. Isabella, I didn't mean that, he stammered. It's just, I never imagined that someone with your amazing cooking skills had never cooked for anyone else. I'm honored to be able to taste a meal you cook yourself. Of course I'm happy, but I don't deserve any of this. Isabel, I'm just your private assistant. I'm receiving far too much. He was terrified and tense. Faced with her relentless advances, the strongest rejection he could muster was, I don't deserve it. We don't deserve this. Her seduction of him was wrong. A person like him was destined to work his whole life just to touch the tip of her shoes. How could she be so forward with him? He couldn't accept it. He felt guilty even considering it. Oh, but I'm willing, she said, her voice dropping. Sam, just eat the meal. Very few people are qualified to taste my cooking. But you have that honor now. If you were to waste it, wouldn't that be even more wrong? She had a point. He shouldn't waste the food. But the thing he really shouldn't be wasting wasn't just the delicious meal on the table. But the feast for the eyes, that was Isabel herself. Her words were a double-edged sword, and they left Sam even more flustered. "I'm sorry, Isabel. I think maybe I shouldn't have come tonight. You should call your assistant back. I won't bother you any longer." His face was beet red. He stood up, ready to run. This place was a spider's web, and every strand was made of pure temptation, leaving him no path of escape. But he couldn't accept it. "Stop!" Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of a command. "Sam, I dare you to take one more step." Sam froze, not daring to move. An order from Isabel? He'd rarely seen this demanding side of the famously good-tempered, gentle movie star. But it was kind of cute. "Isabel, I really do have something tonight." Sam was tempted to send an S. Oh, S. To Jax. With Lily out of the country, there was hardly anyone in New York who could rein Isabel in. "Sit. Down. Eat." Isabel's playful demeanor vanished. She sat up straight, her gaze fixed on him, her eyes filled with the dark, cold certainty of a predator that had its prey cornered. Sam's mouth said no, but his body was very, very honest. He sat. Oh, it's over, he thought. This obedient little act. I'm nothing but a trained puppy she's got wrapped around her little finger. The power couple dynamics he'd seen online were playing out right in front of him, and he couldn't deny his role. So he sat there and ate the exquisite meal Isabel had prepared. He had to admit, though she looked inexperienced in the kitchen, the food was unique. The flavors were distinct, and it was delicious. In the end, Sam buried his head in his plate and wolfed down 3 bowls of food. The only thing marring his appetite was Isabel's intensely predatory gaze from across the table. It wasn't just that she was watching him. It felt like she was fattening him up before she devoured him whole. "Ahem. I'm done," he announced. "Let me clean up here, Isabel. Where's the guest room I'm staying in? I'll just go get settled and go to bed." Isabel watched him eat with a satisfied smile. As a celebrity, she usually ate very little to maintain her figure, but seeing Sam's ravenous appetite had put her in a good mood. She'd eaten more than usual herself. "The room is down the hall," she said. "The one at the very end. You know, I'm tired, too. I'm going to go wash up. Sam, once you're done with the kitchen, you should get some rest, too." She stood and stretched, the elegant fabric of her dress swaying, accentuating her graceful curves. Sam couldn't tear his eyes away. He was standing to clear the plates, and she was sitting. The angle gave him an unexpected, breathtaking view. Wow, her figure is unreal. She was known as one of the great beauties of Hollywood for a reason. Her face and body were both top tier. But the more perfect she was, the more untouchable she seemed. Sam forced the thoughts from his mind and went to the kitchen to do the dishes, thinking he might finally survive the night. Just close your eyes, open them again, and it'll be morning. But when he finished and walked out, heading for his room to take a shower, the bedroom door swung open from the inside. Oh, Sam, there stood Isabel, a vision of an entirely different kind of allure. She casually flicked her damp, wavy hair over her shoulder, her almond-shaped eyes shimmering with a soul-stealing light. She turned slightly, and the view from behind was even more scorching. Her silk robe must have been a designer piece. The back was cut high, and as her wet hair swayed, it revealed the smooth, pale expanse of her sexy back. The line of her spine is stunning, rolling landscape. Her movements seemed to play out in slow motion in Sam's eyes, frame by frame, stretching time into an eternity of provocative fantasy. "Sam," she murmured, her voice a husky whisper. "My robe, it's wet. What should I do?" "Well, in that case, maybe you should take it off." The words tumbled out of Sam's mouth before his brain could catch them. The moment they were out, both of them froze. Isabel looked genuinely surprised. Had her little lamb suddenly grown fangs? She thought, "This is exactly what I wanted." "All right," she purred. "Sam, do you see this little bow on my back? All you have to do is give it a gentle pull." She let the sentence hang in the air, leaving the rest to Sam's fevered imagination. She'd seen enough intrigue in the world of fame and fortune to know a thing or two about seduction. Even if she hadn't practiced it herself, she was far from an innocent ingenue. Sam stood rooted to the spot, his entire body flushed crimson. An electric current shot up from the soles of his feet to the top of his head, igniting a wildfire of fantasy. "Isabel," he said, taking a step forward, his voice thick, "is Adam's apple bobbed? If you're just curious about me, if taking me is what you need to see that we're from 2 different worlds, then I'm willing to give myself to you." He knew it was a one-way street. He was a man. He wasn't the one losing anything in this scenario. But if their feelings weren't there, if he took her and she demanded he take responsibility, he wouldn't be able to refuse. "Sam, you think everything I've done is just because I'm curious." Isabel's eyebrow arched. She turned to face him fully, her gaze as cool and deep as a frozen river. Fine, you can go to bed, and tomorrow you can leave. It's true, I'm interested in you. But if you're going to keep belittling yourself like this, then you've lost the very thing that made me notice you in the first place. The Sam I saw was brave and fearless. Your passion should be like a wildfire, consuming and entangling. But now, your hesitation makes me think I was wrong about you from the start. MMPH. Isabel had been executing a tactical retreat, stepping back to create distance, her eyes filled with cold disappointment. She loved the passionate, fiery Sam, a beacon of light she was drawn to. But this version of him gave her pause. Her words were like nails being hammered into Sam's heart. He had been offered a prize most people only dream of, and he was trying to run away. What must she think? That he found her unattractive? That he disliked her? It was neither. It was just the deep-seated insecurity he could never seem to conquer. But she was right. He was young. He should be fearless, his passion burning hot. Even if she didn't want him in the future, at least he would have burned brightly for her, given himself to her without regret. He would have no regrets. With that thought, he closed the distance. His large hand wrapped around her slender waist without hesitation. Her skin was as smooth as silk, soft and delicate. He couldn't get enough. And what made his blood boil even hotter was the impulsive act that followed. He leaned down and captured her soft, red lips with his own. He kissed her desperately, tasting, devouring, like a drought-stricken plant finally soaking in the life-giving rain. MMPH. Isabel was stunned for a second. Then a fiery heat flared in her eyes. She wrapped her arms around his neck, eagerly returning his fierce kiss. Young men were so explosive. A single kiss felt like it could set the world on fire, like he was going to vaporize her. Sam's hand roamed boldly over her back, pulling her tighter, tighter, as if trying to merge her with his very bones. This was a dream come true, a fantasy he had never thought he could touch. The goddess of the entire world was in his arms. The feeling of triumph was intoxicating, like a general who had just won a great victory. Isabel, he breathed against her lips. Don't regret this. Isabel, don't kiss my throat. Somewhere in their entanglement, the butterfly bow on her back was brushed open, revealing an even more stunning surprise to his roaming hands. Oh, Sam, she sighed, her voice filled with pure delight. I'm so happy. Ma'am, Nathan said, standing before Lily. Jax was not present, so he was reporting on their more clandestine operations. We've taken over all of James Lee's businesses, including the various national treasures from back home that he was dealing. Most of them are priceless artifacts looted during times of war. What are your instructions for these items? Donate them to the National Antiquities Bureau. Anonymously, Lily commanded. She was sitting in a master chair in the study, her dark red hair spilling over her shoulders. And since James Lee is dead, have the Astor conglomerate absorb his semiconductor operations in South Korea. It'll be a good reminder to the rest of the world not to underestimate me. If they want to do business with Lilith Astor, they should first weigh their pathetic 3-ounce brains and see if they're even big enough to get stuck in the general's teeth. A sly, cruel smile played on her red lips. Her eyes, cold and uncanny, locked onto Nathan, making her look like a bewitching demon queen about to feast on blood. She was beautiful, but in this moment, it was a terrifying, deadly beauty. But Nathan only felt cold dread. Not long ago, he thought, she was curled up in the young master's arms, looking fragile and gentle. Do I just not get to witness that side of her? Yes, Ms. Astor, he said quickly. Also, I've contacted your primary physician in the U.S., Mr. Tracy. He's old now, and he's still upset that you refused to follow his long-term recovery plan. He's refusing to treat you again. He rejected our request, citing his age and poor health. However, his granddaughter has apparently inherited his medical genius and is now a top doctor in the U.S. Perhaps you could make do with her. Nathan held his breath, praying for the old doctor. Of course, he knew there was no making do when it came to the boss. As expected, Lily propped her chin on her hand, twisting a strand of dark red hair around her finger. Her eyes turned glacial, her face taking on a frightening, sickly pallor. In the places Jax couldn't see, she let her powerful, terrifying, evil nature run free. Oh, his granddaughter is a famous doctor, you say, she mused. Tell me, if I were to have one of her hands chopped off and delivered to him, do you think that might cure his age-related timidity? You know, that's a very interesting idea. Lily's eyes gleamed with a silken, malevolent light, her red lips curling. Her true nature was exposed. Perhaps we should take a little trip to the U.S. and play. She was not a woman who wallowed in self-doubt. If she did, It was a temporary, calculated act. If she didn't pretend to be fragile and hesitant, how could she enjoy the sight of Jax's unwavering devotion? She was a woman of absolute, unyielding strength. It was why she held the entire Astor conglomerate in her iron grip. In the Astor family, everyone feared her. Even the most ambitious schemers had to consider the grisly fate that awaited them if they crossed her. She was, and always had been, the family's most terrifying anchor. Ms. Astor, the situation in the U.S. is also unstable right now. If you're going, perhaps I should dispatch more of the Astor Guard. The Astor Guard, the family's elite private force, had outposts all over the world. Wherever Lily went, they would appear to protect her. But the U.S. had always been an exception. It was a strange country, geographically remote, an island nation with a strict immigration policy and thorough background checks on all visitors. It was where the world's wealthiest stashed their assets. But it was also a place where the Astor conglomerate's influence was limited. There were powers there that even they couldn't touch, controlled by a family Lily knew all too well. It was the birthplace of the organization. The island where she had fought her way out of a pile of dead bodies was in international waters just off the U.S. coast. No need, Lily said, her voice suddenly laced with a rare uncertainty. Nathan, I don't know if taking Jax to the U.S. is the right decision. Ma'am, your decisions are always the best course of action, Nathan said reassuringly. The young master is just Jackson Pierce, an ordinary young man who has never been to the U.S. You have nothing to worry about. No, Lily said, a sudden disquiet in her heart. My gut tells me something is wrong. The crimson knot root will sustain me for now. The illness won't act up. Let's go back home first. Going abroad was easy. A trip to the U.S. was just business. What Lily feared was the secret that kept her tossing and turning at night. Ma'am, please stop fighting your own body. Mister, Tracy said last time that even staying stable for 3 months was borrowing against your life force. And now you want to run away? You can't do this. Nathan was exasperated. Seeing the boss with that pout on her face was almost cute. He didn't know how to reason with her when she was being this stubborn. It's fine, Nathan, she said softly. Aren't there 2 stalks of the crimson knot root in the world? And Mom is also looking for a way to help me. I think I can hold on for a little longer. It wasn't that Lily was afraid of dying. It was that even Mr. Tracy had said a complete cure was a long shot, and the treatment would be long and arduous. During that time, the old guard at the Astor conglomerate would surely start causing trouble. But most importantly, she had just earned Jax's love. She didn't want to throw herself into some experimental treatment with no guaranteed outcome before she'd had a chance to properly enjoy being loved by him. Besides, in the entire history of the Astor family, not a single person had survived the 25-year-old curse. She didn't want to try. She was afraid she would fall into a sleep from which she would never wake. Lily, for the first time in her life, desperately wanted to be healthy. She wanted to spend a period of peaceful, quiet time with Jax as a healthy woman. The decisive, ruthless Lilith Astor had finally succumbed to fate. She was starting to fear losing everything to death. It was the first time she had been so indecisive, and the first time she had been so gentle. Nathan was surprised by the change in her, but also relieved. When Lily said the word Mom, it was a name that had once felt foreign on her tongue. She wasn't talking about Susanna Astor. She was talking about Mrs. Jiang, that gentle, unassuming woman. The warmth and acceptance she exuded, the way she made you feel safe and relaxed, was something Lily had never experienced in her own family. It was as if, no matter how hurt she was out in the world, she could go home and cry in her mother's arms. A mother who wouldn't blame her for getting hurt, wouldn't scold her, but would just be there, offering comfort and solace. She would just open her arms and give her child a warm embrace, a safe harbor. My darling, you must be tired. Get some sleep at home, and everything will be all right. Tomorrow, Mom will make you a big plate of hot dumplings. At home, you can let go of all your frustrations. This is your home. You should always be your true self in front of family. Lily couldn't help but think of the warm Mrs. Jiang, Jax's mother. Her mother, so much warmer than her own mother, who had always pushed her into the line of fire, leaving her to face the pain and bloodshed alone. Nathan, Lily said, her voice soft but firm. Let's go back to New York. I want to go home. Soon, Jax and Lily were back in the States, and life returned to its busy rhythm. Jax was still focused on launching his new cosmetic line in the U.S. market. The trip had been a preliminary scouting mission, and now that he was back, he could refine his plans and prepare the final documents for the launch. He had a specific reason for this. According to the timeline of his past life, A new cosmeceutical giant was about to rise in the U.S. It would leverage the vast fortunes of its local investors to build an empire, becoming the world's top beauty brand within 2 years. But its core formulas were all based on ancient medicinal beauty recipes that had been lost or stolen from his own culture centuries ago. They were modified, yes, but at their root they were theft. JX Innovations was now established, with a solid foothold in New York City. Jax was using the company's resources to track down the origins of these scattered formulas. They were a part of his heritage, passed down through generations, some orally, some in writing, even after the original texts were lost abroad. This time, he thought with grim determination, I won't let them exploit these historical loopholes. This is the meaning of my return, to mend his own life and to protect the foundations of his heritage. Of course, the most important part of this second chance at life was being with Lily. To save her, to cherish her, to spend the rest of his days with her. After returning to the United States, Lily, miraculously, didn't throw herself back into her work. Instead, she had Nathan prepare a few gifts and drove alone to the Jiang family's home on the outskirts of the city. She arrived just as the sun was setting. A thin ribbon of smoke curled from the chimney, dissipating into the evening air, and from inside the small house, she could hear the warm, bustling voice of a woman, a sound so gentle and reassuring it calmed the soul. Richard, Violet's home from school for the weekend. I bought to make her favorite salt and pepper ribs. I know, honey, you've been talking about it all day, mister. Zhang's cheerful voice replied. I know how much you dote on her, Violet. That's why I went to the market at the crack of dawn to get the freshest rack of ribs. We'll make a big batch for her, and we can send some over to Chelsea's place later. She's been craving your cooking for a while. As for Violet, we'll make extra and pack it up so she can take it back to school and share with her friends. The warmth radiating from the house was so palpable that Lily, standing at the gate in her heels, felt hesitant to break the spell. She had so rarely experienced this kind of ordinary, comforting life. It was only thanks to Jax that she could now claim such warm, down-to-earth people as her own parents. For a moment, she stood at the gate, feeling an urge to retreat. It felt wrong to intrude, to disturb the Jiang family's peace. Besides, she knew that Mrs. Jiang had recently traveled to their old, nearly forgotten hometown in the Ozarks to search for the crimson, not root for her. She had only rushed back to New York because she heard Lily no longer needed it and because her youngest daughter Violet's birthday was approaching. Mrs. Jiang showered all her children with unconditional love and wouldn't dream of missing a birthday. Lily remained at the gate, hesitating, until a small, lovely girl with 2 white blonde braids glanced at her curiously from the side. Pretty lady, are you lost? The girl, who was carrying a small pink backpack, smiled faintly. This is my house. If you're lost, I can show you the way out. Or, if you're thirsty, you can come in for a glass of water. It was the innocent admiration of a young girl for all things beautiful in the world. And the beauty of Lily's face was more than enough to captivate 100 girls like Violet Jiang. You're Violet. Lily, jolted from her warm, envious reverie, turned with a flicker of annoyance, only to meet the curious gaze of a soft, delicate-looking girl. Her eyes swept over the girl's pale skin, her white eyelashes and hair, her light-colored irises. Albinism. She had read Violet's file. The girl was optimistic and strong, always well protected by her family. Hello, Lily said, her voice cool and elegant against the evening breeze. I'm your brother, Jax's wife. Lily. She wore a white, form-fitting dress under a canary yellow cardigan, a casual outfit that couldn't conceal the aura of regal dominance she carried. Her dark red hair, unbound, was lifted by the wind, revealing a fierce beauty that was born from her very bones. A captivating combination of soft curves and a sharp, commanding presence. She was the kind of woman other women couldn't help but admire. Violet stared, lost in a daze for a long moment before snapping back to reality. Jax says, No, I don't have a brother, she declared. And if you're his wife, you're certainly not my sister-in-law. Mom, Dad, who let him come back? He's the one who wanted to leave. What right does he have to return? With that, Violet stormed into the yard, shouldering past Lily. As she did, she caught a whiff of Lily's clean, crisp scent. Oomph. She has good taste, I'll give her that. Too bad her taste in men is terrible. Absolutely terrible. A man like Jax doesn't deserve a wife this beautiful and impressive. Who does he think he is, coming back now and pretending to be a good person after he abandoned all of us? The couple bustling in the kitchen heard the commotion and hurried out. Violet, you're home. What are you chattering about? Go wash your hands and get ready to eat. Mrs. Zhang's voice trailed off as she saw Lily standing at the door. Violet's stubborn, fuming expression made Lily's eyebrow arch. She picked up her bag and walked straight into the yard. Nathan, who had retreated into the shadows when Violet appeared, now stepped forward, his hands full of various health supplements and antique curios for Mr. and Mrs. Jiang. "Oh, Lily, you're here. Why didn't you call and tell me you were coming, dear? I would have started cooking your favorite dishes earlier. Look at me. It's a little late to start now. Richard, hurry and get the beef out of the fridge. I'll make Lily a pot roast. That was always Jax's favorite. We'll have him come over for dinner later." Mrs. Jiang came out, her eyes overflowing with a warmth and affection for Lily that was so genuine it was almost tangible, a raw emotion that couldn't be faked and struck straight to the heart. "Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry to impose so suddenly," Lily said. "This must be Jax's little sister. Violet, right? Jax and I just got back from a business trip to Singapore. He mentioned that his little Violet loves all kinds of shiny, sparkly gems. He actually won a bunch of gemstone pendants for you in a game over there. Since I just got back to the country, I wanted to bring them to you myself on his behalf." Lily walked confidently into the yard as Nathan and several other bodyguards followed, carrying large boxes of gifts and stacking them by the door. As Lily spoke, Nathan opened one of the gift boxes. Inside was an assortment of sparkling crystal stars. They weren't particularly expensive, but they were clearly a thoughtful gift. More importantly, they were something Violet loved and Jax, as her brother, had remembered. He hadn't forgotten to get her a present. Violet froze when she saw the trinkets, then quickly turned her head away in a show of disgust. Who cares about a bunch of stupid rocks? Besides, I'm all grown up now. Who still likes cheap stuff like this? She stood with her back to Lily, her shoulders tense with a mixture of hurt and defiance. Lily had, of course, researched everyone in the Jiang family. She knew everything about Violet. For instance, she knew Violet's birthday was just around the corner, and as her sister-in-law, she had already purchased an English-style manor for her. The architecture was designed to look like a princess's fairy tale castle, complete with a pink tower, and the interior was a one-to-one replica of a castle from Storybook. I figured you'd be too grown up for these crystal stars," Lily said smoothly. "So, your sister-in-law prepared some jewelry that we women enjoy. I just had them pack up a random case from a vault. Violet, why don't you see if there's anything you like?" Lily wasn't deliberately trying to suck up to Violet. It was just that this was the only way she knew how to win people over, by throwing an obscene amount of money at them. It was a fact that Lily had major deficiencies in her social skills. She could be harsh and unforgiving with her subordinates, and her enemies could find themselves dismembered in a matter of minutes. But now that she had a home, a place to belong, a woman like her couldn't help but want to protect it, even if it meant using the same tactics she'd once used on Jax. A combination of carrot and stick. Right now, she was offering the carrot. If Violet continued to be ungrateful, would she have to resort to tying her up, just like she did with Jax in the beginning? But what would be the point? It wasn't like she needed to do whatever she wanted with her. For a moment, Lily was genuinely stumped by the stubborn girl. You. How are you so rich?" Violet sputtered. "Tell me, my brother." "No, that jerk Jax. He's only with you for your money, isn't he?" "Ma'am, listen to me. Jax is just using you for your money. You're so beautiful and generous. Don't let him get what he wants." "A beautiful woman like you can have any man you want. Why would you settle for Jax?" Violet's face was a mask of disdain, her cheeks puffed out in a way that made Lily want to reach out, pat her head, and then poke her little chipmunk cheeks. "Violet, is that any way to speak to your sister-in-law?" Mrs. Jiang interjected just in time. "It took me so long to find your brother, and he's incredibly lucky to have earned Lily's affection. This is a wonderful thing for all of us, so you stop being so stubborn." She quickly pulled Lily into the house and sat her down, then insisted the bodyguards all come inside and take a seat as well. Beaming, she announced she was heading to the kitchen to cook a celebratory meal for her daughter and new daughter-in-law. It was the first time the bodyguard had ever had the honor of sitting at the same table as the miss. If it weren't for the death glare she'd shot them when Mrs. Jiang insisted, they never would have dared. But now that they were seated, they felt closer to death than ever before. "Bodyguards, Mother of God, the money's hard to earn, and this is harder to swallow. The Mrs. orders are absolute, but this little girl's death wish level conversation is making us want to dig a hole and crawl into it. Pretty lady, why don't you just break up with Jax?" Violet suggested, suddenly seeing a new opportunity to cause trouble for her brother. She leaned in conspiratorially towards Lily. "I got connections. I guarantee I can find you a whole squad of boyfriends who are younger and in way better shape than he is." "Oh," Lily said, calmly sipping her herbal tea while Mr. and Mrs. Jiang bustled in the kitchen. But I like him. Younger men don't interest me. And as for more capable, I have yet to meet one. She shot a look at Nathan, who immediately understood and placed a call to have a five-star chef make a house call for some extra cash. But Mr. and Mrs. Jiang were in their element, too full of energy to sit still, which gave Lily the perfect opportunity to spend time with Violet. Huh? Violet exclaimed. Nanny? Lady, you look like you have plenty of money. How can you say you've never met a better man? What's so great about Jax? He'd sacrifice anything to get back in the good graces of the Pierce family. It's so degrading. You have no idea how pathetic and infuriating it is. Why does he have to try so hard to please the Pierces, completely ignoring us, his real family? Is it just because we're poor? Violet's entire childhood had been held up by Jax. When she had a raging fever and the family had no money, Jax went to work at a sketchy, under-the-table computer repair shop. He was only a kid, but he was a genius with computers. The owner, knowing he was underage, exploited him, deliberately paying him less than he was worth. Even so, Jax would survive on plain bread himself, but he would always come home with a soft, fragrant cream cake for Violet. All right, Pipsqueak, what are you crying for? Your big brother's here. You remember this, Pipsqueak. Your brother is a mountain. I'll always be here to protect you and our big sisters. I'm the only man in the Jiang family, you know? It's my job to protect the flowers of the family. Those days were poor, but they were a family supporting each other, and they had managed to make a happy life. If Jax hadn't abandoned them for the Pierce family's money, for the glory of that name, Violet's heart ached with a sense of injustice she couldn't articulate. The feeling festered, turning into resentment and hatred for Jax. Anyway, there's nothing good about Jax, she declared, her big, round, rabbit-like eyes turning red. You're too good for him, lady. You shouldn't be with him. But in my eyes, everything about Jax is good, Lily said softly. I like him just like you do, but it's different, she thought. My love for Jax is like a poison that's carved itself into my bones. It's the very thing that keeps me alive, and without it, I'm drowning in despair. What are you talking about? Violet shot back. Who likes him? I hate Jax. He's the man I hate most in this world. And if you like him so much, you're no good either. Get out. Get out of our house. This bodyguards. Holy crap. This kid's got guts. If you were anyone else but the master's sister, you'd already be in pieces. The miss must be in a good mood today not to have touched her. But she's basically asking for it, isn't she? Trying to walk all over the miss? The bodyguards couldn't stand by any longer. They rose in unison, ready to grab the little brat and toss her out. The entire suburban area had already been bought by the Astor Group as a future development zone. The miss was, technically, the family's landlord now. And she had put that entire massive project on hold, just for this family, just to bask in their warmth. But if there was a troublemaker in the house, the miss would have to act. Miss, we'll take care of this. The bodyguards stood up as one, which was enough to startle Violet. But in the next moment, they simply walked to the front door and closed it, leaving the two of them alone in the living room. Little Violet. Lily's voice was a low purr. You're not allowed to speak ill of Jax. Violet, hiss. This lady flips like a switch. Violet froze for a second. For all her bravado and anger at Jax, for all her confidence, she was still just a teenager. In the presence of a top-tier predator like Lily, she was nothing more than a little sister. If you don't listen, I can't say what I might do to you, Lily said, her tone light, but no one would dare doubt the murderous intent behind the words. You, who are you? Violet's face turned pale. She was just a student, a teenager who should be living a carefree life. She thought she had seen the world, but the woman who had come to her house tonight was clearly the real deal, a truly formidable force. Little one, don't keep saying Jax is with me for my money. There are plenty of people in this world who love money, but your brother isn't one of them. When he didn't love me, all the wealth and power I possess couldn't win his heart. He's a man who must be won over with sincerity, and he has always been a good man who warms those around him with his own genuine heart. Perhaps you too have some deep misunderstanding, but in my presence, you will show my husband the utmost respect. I am not, as you might have perceived, some gentle and generous rich lady. I am the venomous, ruthless head of a financial empire. Lily didn't say the last part out loud. Some truths needed to be experienced firsthand, and she wasn't a patient teacher. For instance, she had a brother, Leo, but Leo would never dare to cross her in the slightest. She was merciless when it came to disciplining him. With a bratty little sister like this, she could be gentle the first time. If Violet remained stubborn, she wouldn't hesitate to give her a taste of a tycoon's ruthless methods. It wouldn't be a fair fight, But whoever said Lily Astor played fair? Darkness and slaughter were the true colors of her soul. Lily spoke casually, maintaining absolute control of the conversation. She didn't even need to pull out her infamous scythe to instill fear. You're the Miss Astor. Violet's eyes darkened, the earlier innocence and petulance vanishing as if it had been an act. Now, she was all bone-deep stubbornness. Jax is only where he is today because he sucked up to you. How is that any different from how he used to grovel before the Pierce family? Miss Astor, I know you're not someone to be trifled with, but I, Violet Jiang, am not afraid of you. The bodyguards, standing guard outside the door, collectively broke out in a cold sweat for the stubborn girl. Damn, she's young. A newborn calf isn't afraid of a tiger. If you're going to pick a fight, you might as well pick the scariest one. Is that so? A faint smile played on Lily's lips, but her direct gaze was enough to send a chill down one's spine. In the next instant, she leaned in. Her hand shot out and neatly closed around Violet's throat. Naughty children really need to be taught a lesson. Lily looked down, her eyes like daggers, as if they could pierce through any disguise, see into the very depths of a person's heart, and expose any secret. TSK, your mother's too gentle to discipline you. I suppose I'll have to do it myself. Lily's hand slowly slid up from Violet's neck to cup her chin. Her breath was like soft silk, her voice as gentle as water. But this single sentence struck Violet's heart with more force than anything else. A sharp pang of fear seized her. She felt that the woman pretending to be so gentle and soft was, in fact, just as vicious and cruel as the rumors said. You. Violet shrank back as if she'd seen a ghost, her pupils constricting. She was still met with Lily's sticky, sweet, generous gaze, but this time, the fear hidden within it was enough to stop Violet from pushing her luck any further. What are you afraid of, little Violet? Lily leaned down, her eyes like black abysses, seeming to hold all the malice in the world. I'm your sister-in-law. I'm being so good to you. You wouldn't want to refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, would you? Violet! I'll be good. Oh my, look at me. I got so busy in the kitchen, I haven't even had a chance to make you tea or cut up some fruit, Lily. Lily, dear, this place is humble. I wouldn't dare tell you to make yourself at home, but please don't be a stranger while you're here. You're Jax's wife, but you came here all by yourself. Did Jax do something to upset you? If he did, you tell me, and I'll give him a good talking to. I'll call him right now and get him a piece of my mind. We'll stand up for our Lily. Mrs. Jiang, having been busy for a while with her apron still tied around her waist, now felt she had neglected Lily and worried what she might think. She pushed the door open to welcome her properly. Lily was used to seeing fear, awe, and fawning sycophancy. To be looked at like a normal person was something even her own mother, Susanna Astor, couldn't manage. People said Mrs. Jiang had gone mad with grief for missing her son. But it was precisely this slightly muddled gaze, which still held the deepest love for her children, that Lily had never seen before. She loved the atmosphere of this ordinary family. It warmed her heart. It allowed her to truly relax, to stop feeling like a rat in a sewer, despicable and alone. Mom, Jax treats me very well, Lily said, and you and Dad shouldn't be slaving away in the kitchen. I've already had a chef come over. Let's just focus on making a wonderful meal for Violet today. When Mrs. Jiang pushed the door open, she had been a little worried about Violet's lingering resentment towards her brother. The girl didn't remember much, but as a child, she had adored following Jax around like a happy little shadow. And Jax had doted on his little sister. The stronger the bond, the harder it was for Violet to accept his departure. Over time, that longing had transformed into a deep-seated resentment that he never came back to see them, a wound that was hard to heal. As a mother, she understood her daughter's feelings. But knowing Lily's gentle and generous nature, she had felt it was safe to leave them alone while she cooked. Still, a part of her worried. But when she opened the door, she saw a shockingly harmonious and beautiful scene. Violet was obediently pouring tea for Lily. For a moment, Mrs. Jiang was so taken aback by this well-behaved version of her daughter that she didn't know what to do. That won't do at all. A chef's food is certainly better than mine, but it's missing a mother's touch, Mrs. Jiang said with a smile. Lily, you've come all this way to visit. You have to eat my cooking. Look how thin you are. I'm going to make you some soup tonight to build you up. The evening wind rustled through her soft hair. Lily looked up, and for some reason, a profound chill pierced her heart. A mother's touch. She seemed to remember from a very, very long time ago that she had tasted it once, too. Thank you, Mom. Lily couldn't help but be moved. She was so used to hiding her true nature But when someone battered at the door to her heart with such love and warmth, she couldn't help but wonder. Maybe she could live a normal life, too. Lily, we're all family. Don't talk about thanks, Mrs. Jiang chattered on, her brows and eyes filled with love for her children. And that Jax, honestly, what work could be so important that he doesn't even have time to spend with you? I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. Mom, why are you talking about your son like that behind his back? Jax's voice boomed as he strode into the small yard. Wherever my wife is, that's where I'll be. Don't you know I'm a completely whipped husband? He had just finished work and was planning to come home, bringing Lily with him. But when he got back to Moonshadow Estate, she was gone. A call to his dad revealed that his wife had beaten him to it. And most importantly, Violet was here tonight. He knew his wife hadn't been fond of Violet in the past, a result of his own excessive attention and care for his sister. This time, he was worried something might happen between them. So, the moment he got the news, he had rushed over. You and your smart mouth. Mrs. Jiang laughed. All right, since we're all together tonight, Mom's going to show off her skills in the kitchen. You stay here and keep your wife and Violet company. I'll go make your favorite braised pork ribs. You two siblings haven't seen each other in so long. When you were little, your sister loved salt and pepper ribs, and you always loved the braised ones. I swear, you two and your ribs. Sensing the tension between Jax and Violet, Mrs. Jiang skillfully tried to ease the awkwardness of their long-overdue reunion. With that, she left the space for the siblings and went back to the kitchen. Jax rubbed his nose, feeling a bit awkward. He sat down next to Lily and gently took her hand, his heart pounding with anxiety. Lily, why did you come home alone without telling me? Are you not feeling well? Or did I do something wrong? The sight of Jax immediately fawning over Lily made Violet, who was already resentful, feel a chill rise in her eyes. Huh, brother? He's already become someone else's lapdog. A man like that doesn't deserve to be my brother. In that case, I'll do exactly what Mr. Charlie asked me to. I won't let Jax get ahead so easily. He deserves to pay the price for abandoning our family all these years. He shouldn't think that just because he's hiding behind Miss Astor's skirt, he can have a smooth ride for the rest of his life. I wanted to see Mom, Lily said simply. So I came. There was another reason. Today was the lunar calendar birthday of her mother, Susanna Astor. She remembered from childhood that her mother's birthday was usually celebrated twice. Once was a grand banquet her father threw for outsiders, a noisy affair of clinking glasses and fake pleasantries. The other, the lunar birthday, was a day for just their family. On that day, her father would even, uncharacteristically, cook a bowl of longevity noodles for her mother himself. She was 3 then, and Julian wasn't much older. He would bounce around his mother, giving her origami toys he'd made. She would give her mother a drawing. Back then, they too had been a warm and united family. But now it was all gone. Yinyu was dead. Julian was dead. Her father was living a life worse than death. Only Leo was left as the carefree young master of the Astor family. Jax, I've already met your sister, Violet, Lily said, leaning into his embrace as Mrs. Jiang left, her emotions finally spilling out. You don't have to worry. She's been relatively well-behaved in front of me. Jax sensed that something was wrong with Lily's mood. He wrapped an arm around her, gently patting her back in a soothing gesture. Lily, is something on your mind? Violet, did you upset your sister-in-law? He instinctively looked at Violet. The girl was certainly stubborn, but he didn't think she had the guts to provoke the great Miss Astor. Violet, who had just been threatened with strangulation. Seriously? This is how we're playing this? And what's with Jax talking to me like we're close? I haven't forgiven him yet. Who gave him permission to call me Violet? Violet was about to explode. She lifted her head to retort, but a chilling glare from Lily killed the words in her throat. I didn't. Violet, fine. You two are a real pair, aren't you? You both love treating me like an idiot. A single look from Lily was enough to silence Violet. I didn't do anything, she said through gritted teeth. Your sister-in-law probably just missed you. The words made Jax look at her again. The girl was as pale and cute as she was when she was little, and her current resentful, pouting look was also quite adorable. It was his fault. It was only natural that the little pipsqueak hated him. But seeing her so well-behaved was something Jax was definitely not used to. Sis. A new voice shattered the quiet. Where did you even find this place? Tonight was supposed to be, but you wouldn't come back with me. You even turned off your phone. I've been looking all over for you. Leo Astor, dressed in a designer casual outfit, burst onto the scene, looking every bit the handsome, energetic teenager. The Astor jeans were undeniably top tier. Leo resembled Lily by a good 40 or 50%, and while he might not have his sister's brains, his looks were certainly deceiving. He came barreling down the path, grumbling and complaining. Finally, he found a small house, but hesitated at the gate. No way. My sister doesn't look like the type to hang out in a place like this. But, whatever. I secretly follow Jax here. Wherever Jax is, Sis is sure to be. Sis, sis, sis. Leo howled like a wolf. Lily, sitting in the main room, frowned slightly. Nathan, go drag him in here and beat him until he cries. Violet, wait, isn't that Miss Astor's brother? Is he really about to get a brutal beating just like that? Come to think of it, compared to that, my sister-in-law just threatening and scaring me was actually pretty gentle. Leo, oblivious, was still grumbling outside, bouncing around like he was ready to slap the first dog he saw. Wait, I sense killing intent. Leo stepped into the yard and immediately retracted his long leg. Sure enough, in the next moment, Nathan's familiar, towering figure appeared. Before Leo could even think, he instinctively turned to run. He'd been disciplined enough times to know that when the atmosphere fell off, it was time to activate his self-preservation defenses and flee. But just as he was about to make a break for it, the gate behind him was swiftly closed by Lily's bodyguards. Young Master Leo, the miss you're looking for is inside. However, she has instructed that you are being too noisy and must be taught a lesson. Until you cry. Nathan cracked his knuckles, all too familiar with the routine of handling the young master. Wait, don't be in such a hurry to beat me up. Leo yelled desperately. I need to see my sister. I really have something important to tell her. Mrs. Jiang poked her head out of the kitchen. Oh, who might this be? She was a little bewildered by Leo's uninvited arrival, but upon closer inspection, she noticed a resemblance between the boy and Lily. He must be a relative. As she was pondering this, Leo, having no shame when it came to his sister, rushed toward her in a panic. Mom, Mama, he cried out. You must be my sister's mother-in-law, right? Jax is my brother-in-law, so his mom is my mom. Mom, you don't mind if I call you that, do you? Leo was handsome and had a silver tongue, making him a favorite among the matriarchs of New York's elite circles. Oh my, you're Lily's brother. Mrs. Jiang was stunned for a second, seeing that Lily's bodyguards were being respectful to the boy, and guessing he was about the same age as her Violet, barely an adult. She found the half-grown teenager quite charming. It reminded her of Jax at 17 or 18, right after he had left the Jiang family. It was an age when she had lost the chance to care for him. Seeing Leo now, she felt an even stronger sense of affection. Mrs. Jiang gently patted Leo's head and took his arm, her kind and gentle demeanor leaving Leo momentarily stunned. The notorious bad boy of New York, for once, didn't know how to react to such a warm scene. Why, yes, that's me, Leo stammered, looking down at the woman whose face was already etched with wrinkles. But her smile was so beautiful, the tenderness in her eyes so real and pure. In that moment, he thought he understood why his sister had come here today. Maybe she was also looking for a temporary safe harbor, a place to escape the storm and the storm of madness. To survive in the Astor family, you had to be a lunatic. There were no normal people there. My name is Leo Astor. I'm Lily's brother, her real brother. No one can come between us. We're bound by blood. As for his older brother Julian, he got what he deserved. Anyone who stood against his sister was a bad guy. Then can I call you Leo? Mrs. Zhang's voice was still so gentle that Leo found himself nodding obediently. Okay. The maternal warmth emanating from Mrs. Jiang was irresistible. It could even warm people like them. It was a special kind of magnetic field. Even the most volatile person would soften in her presence, drawn to her warmth. Leo, is there anything you'd like to eat? It's your first time here, and I don't have much to offer, but let me make you something delicious, okay? Mrs. Jiang was too modest to immediately call herself Leo's mom, though she had taken a liking to him at first sight. I'd like braised pork, Leo said, the tips of his ears turning red as he scratched the back of his head, looking uncharacteristically shy. His reaction was enough to make even Nathan's jaw drop. But in this, young Master Leo was exactly like his sister. They both yearned for a warm, loving family, and neither could resist a kind person. They both came from the cold, insane Astor family, and both desperately craved the salvation of kinship. But in the past, they could only let themselves drift in a dark, hopeless world. And also, I want to call you Mom, Leo blurted out, a hint of arrogance in his voice, as if to say, I'm just following my sister's lead. It's not like I'm desperate to be adopted. Seeing how much Leo liked her, Mrs. Jiang was overjoyed. Of course, Leo, you can call me whatever you like. Mom, can you take me to see my sister then? The word rolled off his tongue with ease. She wants to beat me. You have to protect me. He latched onto Mrs. Jiang like she was a lifeline. He wasn't stupid. The moment he'd clung to her, Nathan and the others had backed off. That alone was enough to tell him how important this woman was to his sister. Plus, he'd done his research. His sister had given this family a fortune and had even halted a massive development project in the area, just for them. He, her own brother, had never received such treatment. What nonsense are you talking? Lily is so gentle. Why would she want to hit you? She must be joking with you, Mrs. Jiang said, assuming it was just sibling banter. Come on, Mom will take you in. And so, clinging to Mrs. Jiang's leg, Leo finally made it into the main room. Lily, dear, your brother Leo is here. It's so lively tonight. Mom is so happy. Thank you all for coming to be with me. Mrs. Jiang was ecstatic, enthusiastically pushing Leo into a seat across from his sister. Leo instantly felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. All right, Mom's gonna go make Leo's braised pork. I'll have your father bring out the dishes that are ready. We're all family. Don't be shy. Go ahead and try some of Mom's cooking. Mrs. Jiang smiled, her joy infectious to everyone in the room. Everyone, that is, except Violet. She felt completely excluded from the warm atmosphere. And when she saw Leo being led in by Mrs. Jiang, her clear eyes blinked, and she looked ready to explode. Mom, him. Why is he here at our house? What's wrong, Violet? This is Leo, your sister-in-law's brother. We're all family, so you mind your manners. You're the little hostess of the house now. You have to take good care of everyone. Violet, still fuming, looked up and met Leo's gaze. His eyes narrowed, then suddenly lit up. He slammed his hand on the table. The white-haired little thief. Tell me, where did you hide the USB drive with the new district development files you stole from me? That drive isn't mine. That drive wasn't yours. They both yelled in unison, jumping to their feet, looking ready to throw down. Lily and Jax, sitting at the table, exchanged a look. Their gazes, cold and powerful, simultaneously swept over their respective younger siblings. Sis, that USB drive was for a deal for my brother-in-law to help the JX Innovations get the land. Leo's tone immediately softened, his voice laced with grievance. I'm your brother. If you won't let me help with your business, I at least want to do my part for my brother-in-law. Jax, I just don't want you to get what you want. So what if I took the USB drive? Violet jutted out her chin stubbornly. In that moment, Lily and Jax understood. The two kids had met before, and there was some conflict between them over one of Jax's projects. Lily looked at Leo. Her own capacity for familial affection was shallow, but the love Leo offered her was always fervent and direct. Fine, I'll spare him a beating. The kid's grown up. He's trying. Leo, I'll add $100 million to your allowance this year, she said. Use it for investments or just have fun. You're my brother. The Astor Group has more money than we can ever spend. If you want to invest in an industry you like, we're not afraid of losses. If you want to squander it, you won't be able to spend it all. In short, as long as your sister is here, you'll never have to worry about not having a roof over your head. But she knew she couldn't protect him forever. Fortunately, she had long ago set up an independent trust fund for him. Even if something happened to the Astor family, her brother, who had never been involved in the core of the business, wouldn't be too badly affected. Jax looked at his little sister. He could see the hurt beneath her stubborn facade. All right, if you want to cause trouble for your brother, go right ahead. But going after Leo is dangerous. His bodyguards are Astor security. What if he got hurt? Jax's gentle, big brotherly tone made Violet's nose tingle. I'll never trust Jax again. Never ever. He's so annoying. He's the person I hate most in this world. Why does he have to lecture me like he's some kind of saint? My real brother Jax is long gone. I don't need you to look out for me. Violet stood up, ready to leave. Leo quickly grabbed her arm. The girl was young, and her arm was so slender it felt like holding a reed. He couldn't be bothered to argue with her. Oi, pipsqueak. You steal something, and now you're trying to run away. Violet. Annoying jerk plus 11111111111. New York City, in a high-end luxury apartment. Isabel Croft's bedroom was strewn with men's and women's clothing. One didn't need to see the bed to imagine the intensity of the previous night. Sam Cole opened his eyes, feeling as if he were still in a daze, waking from a long, long dream. In the dream, Isabel had devoured him whole. Her red silk robe fell open, revealing smooth, pale skin that drew the eye. She had lured him into the room. Then, sweat beaded on his forehead as the sensual scene unfolded, leaving him utterly mesmerized. Isabel seemed to sense his unease. She reached up, her hands on his shoulders, her fingers toying idly with his tie. Sam, you knew this was coming tonight, didn't you? You even dressed up to look so delicious. A bow tie, like you came bearing a gift. And now you want me to unwrap it, piece by piece, to reveal the prize inside. Sam, you're so bad. Isabel backed him against the full-length mirror by the entryway, pressing him forward as she gently untied the bow tie at his neck. As she worked, her red lips parted, whispering things that made him blush. He had to admit, Isabel's acting experience was a huge advantage. The sheer number of scripts and novels she'd read gave her an absolute edge in this department. Isabel, can I just go now? Sam stammered, feeling like a lamb walking into the lion's den. He suddenly admired those stoic heroes from old stories. He was facing just one siren and was already losing his grip on his sanity. But there was no denying that the siren before him was the most bewitching, most soul-stealing of them all, because his feelings for her were already far from innocent. How could he not fall? Go, she purred. You've already walked through my door, Sam. You're so naive. Why would I ever let you leave? You delivered yourself to me. Of course I'm going to savor you. Her soft laugh sent a shiver down his spine. Be a good boy. Use your hands. Take off your shirt. Isabel pulled off his bow tie, wrapping it playfully around her fingers as her eyes roamed over him with predatory intensity. Lift it up slowly. I didn't know you were in such great shape, Sam. 8-pack abs. You must work out. I bet you have a lot of stamina. Isabel leaned in, not indulging immediately. After her verbal seduction, she went to the small desk in the room and opened a bottle of red wine, expertly pouring it into 2 glasses. The movement was fluid, graceful. In that moment, watching her, Sam thought every move she made was impossibly beautiful, like a scene from a magazine shoot. Isabel was too beautiful. What man could possibly refuse her? Isabel. She looked up, her eyes shimmering with a sweetness so intoxicating it could suffocate a man. Good boy, Sam. Come here and drink. Then, Isabel slowly lifted her wine glass and suddenly poured the contents over her own arm. Sam. The dream was a seamless blur. He was a ship caught in a storm, tossed about by the waves, the world turned upside down. Waking, Sam's eyes shot open. He looked in disbelief at the woman lying on his arm. She was sleeping peacefully, her eyes closed, her hands wrapped tightly around his waist from under the covers, as if she were holding on to her entire world. Isabel, with me? We must have both been drunk. Sam panicked. He had never been this flustered in his life. The events of last night flashed through his mind, each memory a slap in the face, condemning his impulsiveness. But it had happened. He wouldn't be irresponsible. Just then, the woman in his arms snuggled against his chest like a cat. In that instant, all of Sam's anxieties seemed to vanish. He could hear her soft breathing, feel their skin touching. Isabel was really in his arms, and she wasn't wearing anything. The scene was enough to make his blood boil. Even after everything they had done last night, Sam couldn't help the heat rising in his ears. He lay there stiffly, letting Isabel press against him. Sam, you're awake? Isabel slowly opened her eyes. She looked like a lioness after a satisfying meal, stretching languidly, her gaze sharp and dangerous as she looked up at him. Sam's heart clenched. Like a child caught doing something wrong, he immediately tried to push the warm, soft body away. I'm sorry, Isabel. I was too impulsive last night. I offended you, he stammered. Isabel, you can punish me however you want. His mind was a battlefield of conflicting emotions, making him feel completely exposed before her. He had lost his mind last night. He had to admit, he had been seduced by her, had broken his own rules. But he had done it, and he wouldn't deny it. He just needed time to give her the future she deserved. Punish me? Isabel sat up. Sam, you're apologizing. Are you saying last night was just an accident? If so, then you should leave. I have a photo shoot today. I can't entertain you. The robe she had worn was thrown too far away on the floor. She rose without a second thought and walked towards the bathroom, treating the stunned Sam as if he were nothing but air. Sam sat up, completely bewildered. Isabel, I'm not unwilling to take responsibility, he called out. I just need you to give me some time. I promise I won't let you down. But his words were cut off by the sharp click of the bathroom door closing. Frantic, Sam threw back the covers and stood up. The damning stain on the white sheets made his heart clench. He had thought he was just a plaything for her, a way to pass the time when she was lonely. He wanted to be responsible, of course, but he felt he didn't have the right. She was a world-famous, award-winning actress. He was just a college student. Of course he felt insecure. Of course he saw himself as a plaything. Even after that wild night, he had been prepared for her to wake up and kick him to the curb. That was why he'd taken the initiative admitting his mistake, taking the blame for seducing her. But now, she had shut him out, and Sam was even more panicked. Isabel, had she really given him her first time? And him? He was such an idiot. He had always thought he was just a casual diversion for her, never believing her when she showed him her true feelings. So, Isabel was actually interested in him. I'm sorry, Isabel. Sam got up, still shy at his age. He grabbed a towel from the floor, wrapped it around his waist, and went to the bathroom door to knock. I'm sorry, Isabel, I didn't mean it. I apologize because I felt I had defiled you. I'm honored that you like me. The truth is, I've been falling for you for a long time. Every step I took back was me warning myself not to desire someone I don't deserve. Not that I don't love you. We were both drunk last night, and I let myself go, breaking down the wall between us. I actually want to be with you. I don't know what you're thinking. People like me, we tend to back down when we're not completely sure. But since I've done it, I won't run away. Isabel, can you forgive my thoughtless words? Sam's heart was in turmoil. He stood nervously at the bathroom door like a puppy that had been given a scrap of hope only to have it snatched away, whimpering in fear of being abandoned. On the other side of the door, Isabel's eyes softened. She admitted she had pursued Sam for her own selfish reasons. She liked his honest, sincere nature, and she had willingly given him her first time. But she felt that if she didn't push him, he would never be able to figure out his own heart. Without some high stakes, Sam would always see it as a matter of responsibility. People don't cherish what they get too easily. As a seasoned film veteran who read scripts for a living, Isabel knew how to manipulate emotions. She needed to make Sam understand that his true feelings weren't about responsibility, but that he had already fallen in love with her. But the high-stakes moves had to be played slowly. The bathroom door opened. Isabel stood there, a towel loosely draped around her. Sam, I've been thinking. I put too much of my energy and feelings into you, and it's made you uncomfortable. That being the case, I'm not some old-fashioned woman who thinks sleeping with you once means you have to sacrifice your life for me. Maybe we should just call ourselves boyfriend and girlfriend to start. Isabel lowered her gaze, her long eyelashes hiding the mischievous glint in her eyes. She was luring him in one step at a time. First, get him to be her boyfriend. Whether he agreed or not, she had made her move. But before she could finish, Sam pushed the door open, stepped inside, and closed the distance between them. Their breaths mingled as he bent his head, pressing his forehead against hers. He covered her mouth with his hand, stopping her from saying more. What was she going to say? That they should just forget about it? How could they? He had already fallen, and he was willing to pay any price for it. MMPH. Isabel's eyes widened in surprise, their brightness dazzling Sam. We can't call it off, he said, his voice urgent. Isabel, wait for me. I will marry you. I'm going to marry you. I'll work hard, even if I have to work for Jax for the rest of my life, to give you the most beautiful, sensational wedding New York has ever seen. Sam's desperate, frantic demeanor surprised Isabel, but it was a pleasant surprise, like finding a hidden gem in a blind box she thought she was rigging. But, Sam, do you really love me? She probed, deliberately adding pressure. The women of the Astor family, even those from the Branch families, are not so easy to marry. Because the Astor women are not easy to handle. Usually, they only take in husbands. Would he still want her? No matter how hard it is, Sam said, his expression sincere and resolute. Isabel, I will marry you. The look on his face made Isabel pause. She reached up and pulled his hand away from her lips. The distance between them shrank, and the atmosphere in the bathroom grew thick with tension. How much do you love me? She whispered. Sam, I want to feel it again. At the Astor estate, Susanna Astor sat at a lavishly set dining table, staring at the exquisite delicacies before her, her heart a hollow, cold void. I heard Lily is back in the country. Where is she now? Why hasn't she come home? The past few years, even though she hated me, she would always come to the hospital to see me in secret on this day. But this year there's been nothing. What is she doing? What is she thinking? Has she abandoned her own mother? Susanna muttered to herself, her eyes filled with a sorrow so profound it was heartbreaking to witness. That granddaughter of mine, Lily, is getting more and more out of control. Before, when you came back to the estate, she would at least come see you. But she didn't even show up today, did she? Cornelius Astor hobbled into the dining room with his cane, flanked by a few of his trusted men. What do you think I brought you, a madwoman, back from the asylum for? Who knows what state her body is in? Since she's been traveling abroad more frequently, her health must be deteriorating. He complained to Susanna. The woman was insane. She wouldn't understand his words anyway. Sir, we found her, one of his men reported. The miss went to the Jong family's house. The poor family that adopted Jax Pierce. The miss has given them a great deal of money. It said she even took that priceless Venetian glass chalice from your favorite vault and gifted it to that common couple. What's more, young Master Leo also went looking for her. He's been inside the Zhang house for a while now and hasn't brought the miss back. The man reporting had been assigned to monitor Lily's every move, a fact known to everyone in the Astor family, including Lily herself. But Lily had always been willful, cunning, and ruthless. She did things with such blatant arrogance, precisely so Cornelius's men would witness it all. She wanted everyone to know, without a shadow of a doubt, the power of Miss Astor. Useless, Cornelius roared. Isn't Leo supposed to be on good terms with that disrespectful girl lately? He can't even get his own sister to come home for a meal. She's getting closer and closer to 25. No matter who the man she's found is, she needs to have a child for the plan to proceed. His hand, covered in wrinkled veins, trembled as he gripped his cane. He hobbled over to Susanna, his eyes dark as he studied the woman who was rumored to have lost her mind. That monster Lily. She was allowed to live, but his son was not. A truly wicked daughter. Fortunately, her time was short. As long as he could outlive her, he wouldn't have to concern himself with a mere Lily Astor. Sir, your health isn't fully recovered. Please don't get angry. It's bad for your body, his aide said soothingly, helping the old man to a seat. True, Cornelius conceded. Did you send the invitation to Theodore Pierce? Since Lily is unwilling to come and see her own grandfather-in-law, a man who is now family, I'll have to meet with my old friend myself. A look of satisfaction crossed his face, as if he had finally found something to be pleased about. Sir, Mr. Pierce is already waiting in the side hall. Shall we proceed? Cornelius had planned for Lily to return to the estate so that he could have Theodore Pierce discreetly observe her from behind a screen to assess her health. The girl was constantly surrounded by top-tier security. It was impossible for Theodore to get close. But her body must be getting weaker, and she was already over 20. Logically, even before she reached 25, her health would only decline. Just like his youngest daughter, Celeste, all those years ago. The withering of that daughter was a nightmare. But her sacrifice had not been in vain. His own health had improved, hadn't it? So, any price was worth paying. The Astor family would continue. The most important thing was for the old guard to maintain control. Some of the younger generation were just a fleeting bloom, and their bloom was fueled by their own blood, destined to fade quickly. Yes, let's go, Cornelius said. Looking at this madwoman is just bad luck. He had chosen this daughter-in-law for his son because the Sinclair family was a match for the Astors in status. And Susanna had been a perfect wife, managing the household with skill and grace, a typical lady of high society, educated, capable, yet gentle and rational. But everything changed when Celeste died suddenly. Susanna, already pregnant with Lily, and with Yin Yu still a young child, had seemed to understand something. She had tried to flee the Astor estate with Yin Yu. That night, her screams had echoed through the entire house. Liars! The Astor family is a den of demons. I won't be pregnant again. This child should never be born. You parasites are disgusting. If the old man is meant to die, let him die. Why must you harm Yin Yu? She never got to finish her sentence. She was dragged away, and a fist silenced her. A small Yin Yu hid in a corner of the cellar, her hands over her ears, not daring to make a sound, not even a whimper. But in the end, Cornelius had found her. The grandfather she had only ever known to be bettered and stood before her, a dark shadow, and then smiled kindly. You, my dear, Grandpa is here to take you home. Behind him, she heard Susanna's heart-wrenching scream. The contrast between that sound and the old man's face, his wrinkles contorting into a forced, kindly smile, was more terrifying than any horror movie. Mom, Mama, I want my mama. Don't hit my mama. Oh, my dear you, your father isn't hitting your mother. As long as you don't run away, your mother will be very safe. The memory, like a nightmare, was buried deep within the filth of the Astor estate. Cornelius leaned on his cane, his steps no longer as steady as they once were. It was time, he thought, to sacrifice another flower of the Astor family. Back at the Zhang family's house, a table laden with steaming dishes was brought out, a mix of Mrs. Zhang's home cooking and food from the five-star chef Lily had called. Time was limited, so Mrs. Zhang had focused on making her children's favorite dishes. As she brought them in, she noticed the atmosphere at the table was unusual. What's going on, Jax? It seems Leo and Violet know each other well. Why are they sitting together? Just moments ago, Leo and Violet had looked ready to tear each other apart. The tension between them was palpable. Leo had even moved to stand behind Violet, ready to teach the little Spitfire a lesson by yanking on her braids. The girl was young, but she was stubborn. And as it happened, Leo was just as fearless and stubborn. When it didn't involve his sister, he was the most difficult thorn in the Astor family's side. But now, he recognized a familiar feeling in this white-haired little thief. His hand had been about to reach out when Mrs. Jiang walked in with the food. Leo froze, then obediently sat down right next to Violet. The move left Mrs. Jiang completely baffled. "Mom, I didn't know Violet was your daughter. You won't believe it. We go to the same school. What a coincidence. Not only are we schoolmates, we're family." Leo sat there, his handsome, flower boy looks on full display. "Who's family with you?" Violet shot back with a disdainful arch of her eyebrow. Having a big guy suddenly sit next to her, Leo was in a growth spurt. A handsome 6-footer was certainly disorienting. "You are." Leo leaned in, a wicked grin on his face. "Little thief." The last part he whispered in her ear. Leo feared no one but his sister Lily. This little thief, he wasn't really afraid of her. Teasing her was proving to be quite fun. "Is that so? Violet, is that true? You and Leo go to the same school? That's wonderful. Leo, you and Violet should come home for dinner more often. Mom will cook for you." Mrs. Jiang, with her simple and kind nature, was genuinely happy to see the kids getting along. She was completely oblivious to the fact that under the table, their legs were tangled in a battle for dominance, each one trying to stomp on the other's foot. Neither was willing to back down, a shared trait of stubbornness. Lily and Jax watched the two kids, thinking how surprisingly similar the two little hotheads were. Lily raised an eyebrow, her gaze falling on Leo with a hint of inquiry. "You're calling her mom, too?" Jax glanced over. He knew that, deep down, Leo was very much like Lily. He acted tough, but he was starved for affection. Jax had been there himself. He could see the profound insecurity beneath Leo's cocky exterior. And his mother, Mrs. Jiang, was the living embodiment of the warmth and love that could soothe such a soul. "Well, are my sister and brother-in-law's mom my mom, too?" Leo shot back. "Is there anything wrong with that? Mom, you tell me. Am I right or am I right? Here, let me get that. We can't have our mom getting tired." He jumped up, conveniently untangling himself from Violet, and started helping Mrs. Jiang, his silver tongue flattering her and livening up the atmosphere. The family laughed and chatted in the warm, cozy atmosphere, as lively as a holiday celebration. Lily watched, her face a mask of disapproval at Leo's hyperactive antics, but inside, she felt a warmth spreading through her. On this day, it felt like she and Leo had finally found a home, a place where they could let down their guards and truly feel loved. Violet sat there, her lips pouted in a perpetual state of anger, but she kept stealing glances at Jax. "Brother Jax, is he really home? It feels like a dream. This harmonious scene. It's as if our family was never broken apart. But the truth is, we haven't seen each other in so long." "Oh, Richard, it's been so long since I've been this happy." Mrs. Jiang sighed contentedly. "Except for the time our Jax brought his new wife home. Look, having new family members makes such a difference. It's getting more and more lively. We're getting old, aren't we?" Her eyes crinkled with smile lines, her expression one of pure bliss. She had no regrets. She had never asked for wealth or fame. All she ever wanted was her family together. That was her greatest treasure. "Here, tonight is a happy occasion. Let's open a few bottles of wine to celebrate," she declared. Mr. Jiang immediately went to get the wine. "I don't know much about wine. This is what Lily brought for us last time. Let's drink it together tonight. The more the merrier. That's how you truly taste good wine." And so, Leo watched in horror as Mr. Jiang deftly uncorked a 7-figure bottle of wine that he had begged his sister for multiple times and never gotten. "Wait a minute. Am I the poorest one in this family?" He'd heard that when his sister first visited the Jiangs, she had practically emptied one of the Astor vaults as a meeting gift. He knew his sister's style. If it wasn't rare enough, if it wasn't expensive enough, she wouldn't even bother putting in the vault. That was the kind of stuff she let Jax smash for fun back in the day. With the wine flowing, everyone relaxed and started eating and drinking. Outside, the late autumn wind howled, but inside the small house, it was as warm as spring. "Violet, you and your brother haven't really had a chance to talk since he came back. Tonight, I hope you two can resolve your differences," Mrs. Jiang said, her voice soft. "Violet, Jax never abandoned our family. It was me who selfishly sent him to the Pierce family. I thought that a family like that, his own blood relatives, would give him a good life. But I was short-sighted, and I only made him suffer. Violet, if you still hold a grudge against your brother, then take it out on him. This is something you two siblings have to work out on your own." Mrs. Jiang never interfered in her children's quarrels. She knew that sometimes parental involvement only made things worse. In the end, Both kids cared deeply for each other. Nothing truly terrible would happen. Mom, he's not my brother. Violet snapped. And this toad hopping all over our house. He's definitely not one of us. She finished yelling at Jax and immediately turned her fire on Leo. The boy's presence tonight was simply too much, and he kept provoking her onto the table. He might be handsome, but his personality was infuriatingly smug. Who are you calling a toad? Leo shot back. Fine, you're the swan, all right? Doesn't that mean you should be even more afraid of me? Little thief, little swan. The last part was once again whispered in Violet's ear, a blatant provocation. A toad wanted to eat a swan. In his dreams. The meal ended up being a lively affair. Lily, in a good mood, had drunk quite a bit. She was now draped over Jax's shoulder, her fingers tracing idle patterns on his neck, sending a ticklish shiver through him. Jax, I was actually really unhappy tonight, she murmured. But with you here, with family, I finally feel like we have a home. She leaned in. Her dark eyes, usually carrying the cold assessment of a ruler, were now incredibly soft. They had melted into a pool of hot spring water, threatening to pull Jax in and drown him. Jax let her lean on him, his arms securely around her waist. So, Lily, can you tell me why you were unhappy? I want to walk beside you, on that lonely, thorny path of yours. I want to be with you. The love of family is love, but the love of a partner is a mutual salvation. In the small, cramped, but clean room that had once been Jax's, something was brewing. Lily's eyes narrowed. She wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him, her domineering aura flaring. Then, she pushed him down. No, she purred. That's not something Jax would say. Tell me, are you plotting to escape from me again? The woman's eyes were like water, slowly losing focus. Her drunken flush was like rouge on her cheeks, a peachy pink blossom of happiness. Jax? Wow. The mist gets drunk and completely resets all my progress. Is that it? In the next moment, he was pinned down on the bed, his hands held above his head. Jax, she whispered. Love me, okay? Jax sucked in a sharp breath. The familiar, dark, possessive dominance of the mist enveloped him completely. Pinned to the bed in the warm little room, surrounded by relics of his youth, Jax, also tipsy from the wine, felt a wave of disorientation. It was as if he'd traveled back in time to his teenage years. A happy family, warm and loving relatives. He was living a normal life, only to be targeted and captured by a tyrannical rich girl. So, he lay there, letting Lily hold his hands down, a wicked glint in his eyes. No, he said, his voice a low, deliberate purr. The miss can take whatever she wants. I'm under no obligation to help you. His deliberately seductive tone was the exact stimulant Lily craved. She felt as if she were being submerged in hot water, unable to clearly hear his words, but sensing the resistance she expected. A chill flickered in Lily's eyes, and she lost control, lowering her head to kiss the lips that haunted her dreams. It was Jax, his familiar scent. He was the man she would gladly give everything for. No matter how much time passed, no matter what happened, he was the Jax she would always run to. And to Jax, the miss in his arms was a proud, feisty little calico cat. He knew that if he just petted her the right way, she would purr contentedly and expose her belly for him to rub. But men love a challenge. He couldn't resist teasing the little cat in his arms, reaching out to rub her soft ears, provoking her to extend her claws and gently scratch his palm. The feeling was electrifying. Oomph. Jax isn't being good, Lily murmured after a long, deep kiss. She pulled back, her expression still stubborn, which Jax found unbearably cute. Bad boys need to be kissed to death. Her words were rough, but they were exactly what he wanted to hear. The drunken flush on her face only added to her charm. Jax was hopelessly smitten. The little interaction between them had completely won him over. Oh, kiss to death, he whispered in her ear. The miss will have to try harder. A moment ago, you could barely speak straight, and now you're making such bold claims, baby. He called her baby. The love in his eyes for the miss was multiplying, going up, up, up. Bah, baby. Lily's mind was a fog. Jax couldn't help but cup her face, her dark red hair tangling around them as she lay there, looking impossibly obedient. It seemed that getting drunk unlocked her ability to be coquettish. Her voice was now tinged with a syrupy sweetness that danced on Jax's heart. Does the miss like babies? Jax leaned closer, their breaths mingling, the warm scent of wine from their lips creating an intoxicatingly intimate atmosphere. But they didn't go any further, just held each other, a moment of warmth between husband and wife. Actually, not really, but I like my baby Jax. She didn't like Astor children. She didn't like any newborns in the Astor family. Even when distant relatives had a new child, she wished they had never been born into this world. If she became a mother, she couldn't guarantee her baby a future filled with love and safety. Bringing a child into this world would be a sin. She had long known that the old man, using the pressure of the family elders, was constantly trying to marry her off, to force her into alliances. In essence, it was a plot to slaughter her. That was why she eliminated any man who tried to get close to her. Except for Jax. This live-in husband was one she had fought for, one she had taken by force. But in doing so, she had walked right into the old man's trap. If she got pregnant, that would be the moment she truly stepped into the Astor family's secret catastrophe. "It's okay, Lily," Jack said softly. "If you don't want them, we don't have to have children. In this world, a couple doesn't need children to be complete. We have each other. We love each other. That's complete." Jax's words were nothing but sincere. In his eyes, Lily's well-being was more important than his own life. In this life, he wanted to make it up to her. But after being with her, it was clear that she was the one who was filling him, completing him, making him feel whole. Lily murmured, snuggling into his arms. "Jax, I really, really love you." She felt a warmth spread through her. With her love by her side, with the family she had chosen, how could this not be happiness? Unfortunately, there were still too many things at the Astor estate that she needed to handle. Before she could guarantee how long she would live, she had to clear the path for Leo. The family ties she acknowledged were few and far between. But Leo, the one everyone saw as the most useless, the most spoiled, the one she was supposedly not close to, was in fact one of her few precious connections in this world. In a hazy, drunken state, she felt her clothes being removed. The familiar touch of warm skin. It was Jax. Even half-drunk himself, he had managed to get up, find a basin of warm water, and was now wiping her down. "Lily, be good. You were sweating a bit from the wine. You'll be uncomfortable if you sleep like this. Let me clean you up so you can rest better. Mom brought this over. She said she wouldn't disturb us and told me to take care of the miss. Miss, I'm willing to serve you for the rest of my life." Jax leaned over her, his movements gentle, as if her skin were as delicate as tofu. Jax, the board meeting is tomorrow," Lily mumbled, wrapping her arms around his neck, not wanting him to get up. "I've never let you attend before. This time, the shift in the Astor Group's shares is unprecedented. Some of those old fossils are flying in from across the ocean just to cause trouble. Among them, there's a mysterious shareholder with 86% of the stock. His name is Orion Sky. He controls the criminal underworld on the continent. I never thought he would come to this meeting. I'm afraid. He's coming for you." Jax froze, then resumed his gentle cleaning. He wrapped the warm cloth, then held Lily tightly in the small room. Coming for me?" he asked. "Orion Sky, the head of the Continental Mafia, the one who controls half the world's resources from that blue blood family. The Skis." Jax only remembered a little about that family from his past life. Blue Bloods, the most elite of the world's hidden dynasties. He only knew because he had stumbled upon some files while stealing secrets from the Astor Group in his past life. It turned out that ever since Lily had taken over, the Astor Group had been receiving investments from that mysterious family. And the last time Lily had left Moonshadow Estate, supposedly for treatment, her destination hadn't been her usual clinic in the U.S., but the continent. What secrets did the continent hold that had made Lily lower her guard, taking Nathan, Mr. Sterling, and so many of her trusted people with her? And what was the motive of this man from the Blue Blood Sky family? For a moment, Jax saw a flicker of vulnerability in Lily's eyes. Was there something there that she was afraid of? Jax couldn't figure it out. His mind raced, but in the end, he gently brushed a strand of hair from her face, looked into her eyes, and stroked her head. "Lily, no matter who he is or what he wants, you have me. I told you, we're husband and wife. I will protect you." Even if, to the outside world, his promise to protect the great Miss Astor sounded laughably pathetic, Jax knew that Lily was the person he would protect even at the cost of his own life. Lily let out a soft laugh, nestling into his chest and rubbing against him mischievously. "It's not that serious, baby. I'm here, aren't I? A night of warmth." In stark contrast to the lively Jiang house was the cold, tomb-like Astor estate. "You're telling me Lily is calling a board meeting and someone from the continent is coming?" Cornelius slammed his hand on his study desk. "She's insane. She has no idea what she's doing. Those people are not to be trifled with. Has she forgotten about the heirs conclave? All those years ago, they came to this country and picked out so many young girls. Lily didn't have to go, but my idiot son had a brain fart and insisted on sending her to see the world. It ended up getting her entangled with the continent from a young age. And now her family is being suppressed by them. Who in the Astor family still dares to go against Lily? Outside in the courtyard, Susanna was listening to an old recording, wearing a thin Chong Sam, her expression blank. No one dared to disturb the mad lady. They all treated her like she was invisible. No one noticed that after Cornelius smashed his teacup, a dark light flickered in Susanna's eyes as she listened to his rant. It was true. They had tricked her back then, telling her the heirs conclave was a good opportunity, that to secure Lily's inheritance, they needed to cultivate her abilities and connections from a young age. At that time, she, a mere wife, had no say in the Astor family's decisions. After giving birth to Lily, she hadn't wanted to get pregnant again. But her husband found the birth control pills she had hidden. That night, she had been subjected to inhuman torture. Soon after, she found she was pregnant again. That child was Leo Astor, the youngest son of the family, who resembled his grandfather Cornelius and was showered with love from birth. But from a young age, he had always preferred to follow Lily, even when she barely paid him any attention. He was happy to be his sister's shadow. At the time, it had brought Susanna some comfort. At least Lily finally had some company. The young master was doted on, his life completely different from his older siblings. But Susanna knew it was because Leo's existence was beneficial to the family. Once a child could no longer contribute, he, too, would be in danger. She sat by the pond, her gaze fixed on the goldfish. Her life was no different from theirs, but her children would be different. She wouldn't let them repeat her life. It was time for another reshuffling of the Astor family. She had always wanted to give Lily a different world, to stop her from being tied to this country because of her. Her Lily should be free to go abroad for treatment. She would clear any obstacles in her daughter's path. Someone from the continent is coming? Who is it? One of Cornelius's old butlers asked. Years ago, they were insisting on a marriage between Miss Astor and their young master. It was a great opportunity, but the miss told the young master to his face that she wouldn't live past 25 and even made up some nonsense about being a bad omen. She forced them to drop the idea. So if they're making a move now, could it be that young master is still thinking about our Miss Astor? The butler had been by Cornelius's side in his prime and held a high status in the household. He knew many secrets. Old man, you're misremembering, another old bodyguard chimed in, his voice raspy with age. They were all old now. The one he was interested in was Miss Yinyu. He even came to her funeral. I remember he looked at her ashes and didn't believe it. He demanded that our esteemed Astor family open the urn for him to see. Such a stubborn man. Is that so? Cornelius mused. That girl, she was an unlucky one. Daughters, they're all unlucky.